Chapter 82. Phoenix Restaurant was located on the busiest East Street in the capital. Chu Luyue and the rest followed Su Hui here. The streets were bustling with people. Su Hui smiled and pointed forward. It's right in front. Chu Luyue looked in the direction he pointed and saw an antique two-story restaurant. She could vaguely make out the words, Phoenix Restaurant, on the signboard. She was surprised. Every inch of land here was worth gold. Even a small shop's rent was ridiculously expensive. Phoenix Restaurant was the #1 restaurant in the capital, but it only had 2 stories. Chu Luyue casually looked around. Even the clothing store next to it had 3 stories. In comparison, Phoenix Restaurant was much more low-key. At this moment, the doors of Phoenix Restaurant were tightly shut. There were only 2 servants in front of the door. A few people were standing in front of the door, talking to the servant. Closed. Doesn't Phoenix Restaurant close at the end of the month? Why so suddenly today? The servant said politely. Dear guests, I'm really sorry. This is the manager's order. We can only obey. Please forgive us. You think an apology is enough? I've already told a few of my brothers that we're going to gather here today. You're telling me this now. Where am I supposed to put my face? These people were all dressed like rich young masters. They looked wealthy and respectable. The leader was even more arrogant and looked very angry. Chu Luyue took a look and realized that the person who spoke looked familiar. Ask your manager to come out. Phoenix Restaurant is not going to give face to my Lu family. Oh, it's him. The Lu family's 4th young master, Lu Jitao. The servant said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. We are indeed not receiving guests today. Please come back another day. Moreover, there are many restaurants in the capital. It's the same if you change places. How is that the same? Lu Jitao raised his voice. Is this how you do business? You're chasing away guests. Do you believe that I, Su Hui, stepped forward? Young master, I'm really sorry. Lu Jitao turned his head to take a look and frowned. Who are you? The 2 servants immediately bowed. Manager. Su Hui nodded. Lu Jitao and the rest looked at each other in shock. They did not expect that this amiable-looking fatty was actually the shopkeeper of the Phoenix Restaurant. Phoenix Loft was very famous, but very few people had seen their manager. Therefore, even though they had come here many times, they still did not recognize Su Hui. So you're the shopkeeper of Phoenix Restaurant? You came at the right time. Did you see what happened just now? No matter what, we are considered regulars of the Phoenix Palace. Is this how you treat us? Lu Jitao's tone was still very aggressive. Someone tugged at him from behind and whispered, 4th young master, this Phoenix Restaurant is not ordinary. Let's be polite. Lu Jitao sneered. Isn't it just a restaurant? Could he really ascend to the heavens? My Lu family is also a businessman, but I've never seen anyone chase a customer away so directly. What? Does the #1 restaurant in the Imperial capital not care about its customers? His voice was very loud and soon attracted the attention of many people around him. Some people had already started to gather around. There were those who were here to watch the show, and there were also those who were here to watch the show. Lu Jitao became even more confident. Su Hui cupped his fists. The #1 restaurant in the Imperial capital, Phoenix Restaurant, really does not deserve the title. But today, someone has already booked the entire Phoenix Restaurant. It is really inconvenient. Please forgive us. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expression changed in unison. Booked the entire restaurant. Booked the entire Phoenix Restaurant. How much money would that cost? Who would be so generous? Lu Jitao's anger dissipated. He knew very well that it was not easy for even his Lu family to book the entire Phoenix restaurant. That was practically burning money. The person who could do such a thing was not to be trifled with. I see. Why didn't you say so earlier? Lu Jitao and the people behind him exchanged glances. Then we'll come again tomorrow. Su Hui smiled. Sorry, that person has booked the entire restaurant for 3 days. If you really want to come, please wait for 3 days. Digression, mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 83. The entire street fell into an eerie silence once again. Almost everyone suspected that they had heard wrongly and stared at Su Hui in disbelief. 3 days. Booked the entire Phoenix restaurant for 3 days. Is that person crazy? Because he was too shocked, Lu Jitao couldn't even speak for a moment. Today is a joyous day for our esteemed guest, so Phoenix restaurant will not be too calculative about anything. Please make yourselves at home. Su Hui had already turned around after he finished speaking, clearly not intending to continue arguing with them. Usually, even if the head of the Lu family came, he might not be willing to meet them. Today, it was already very rare for him to have the patience to say such things to Lu Jitao. Fourth young master, Phoenix restaurant is not to be trifled with. Let's leave. Lu Jitao was furious, but with this reminder, he sobered up a little. Just as he was about to retreat and leave, he turned his gaze and saw a beautiful young girl standing not far away. She was just standing there quietly, but it was as if everything around her had lost its color. Lu Jitao's eyes lit up. Since when did the Imperial city have such a stunning beauty? Sensing Lu Jitao's gaze, Chu Liuyue's eyes flickered. Lu Jitao did not attend the Crown Prince's birthday banquet. During the previous argument, she had concealed her appearance, so it was normal for him not to recognize her now. Oh, which family is this girl from? How come I've never seen her before? As he spoke, he was about to step forward. Su Hui's figure moved and blocked in front of him. The polite smile on his face had disappeared, and his tone carried a hint of warning. This lady is Phoenix Restaurant's esteemed guest today, Miss Lu Yu. What? They want to hold a banquet at Phoenix Restaurant? How is that possible? They can't afford it. Hearing the news from the page boy, the entire Chu family was shocked. They said that Jinbao Pavilion's second master Yan booked the entire place for her. They said they wanted to thank her for selling the title deed. Chu Yan gnashed his teeth in hatred. Initially, everything was going well. Who knew that Yan Gu would appear out of nowhere? I also heard that high-level fiends have appeared in the hunting ground recently, and the price has increased greatly. The fourth princess brought many people over today. This Chu Luiyue is really lucky. Although he lost his engagement with the crown prince by selling a hunting ground, he won the favor of Jinbao Pavilion. What kind of place is Jinbao Pavilion? Why would they look at Chu Luiyue differently for such a small hunting ground? I think something is fishy. Now is not the time to talk about this. Let's think about what to do next. Jinbao Pavilion is supporting Chu Luiyue. The great elder's face was gloomy as he suddenly sneered. This matter isn't that simple. Jinbao Pavilion had snatched the crown prince's things, and now that a high-level magical beast had appeared in the hunting ground, the crown prince probably viewed Jinbao Pavilion as a thorn in his side. Going there today is not only going against the Chu family, but also provoking the crown prince. I want to see who will get involved in this mess. When Chu Luiyue entered Phoenix Restaurant, she realized that although there were only 2 floors, the interior was very spacious. Walking in, she realized that other than the main hall in front, there was a ring-shaped building at the back. In the middle of the building was a clear lake. The 9 winding corridors on the lake were all carved from agarwood. The entire Phoenix restaurant was filled with a faint fragrance that refreshed the mind. Lord Chu Ning, Miss Lu Yu, please don't worry. I have already sent someone to change the location of the banquet to Phoenix restaurant. Both of you just have to wait here. At this point, even Chu Luyue sighed in her heart. The other party clearly came prepared and arranged everything properly. Chu Ning couldn't help but say, we have to thank Second Master Yen properly this time. Chu Luyue nodded. In fact, she also had some things to ask Second Master Yen. At this moment, a voice came from outside. Second Master Yen is here. Speak of the devil. Chu Luyue and the rest turned around and saw Yen Gu walking over. They did not expect Yen Gu to be the first to arrive. With his status, it was already very rare for him to come personally. Yet, he came so early. Chu Luyue suppressed the surprise in her heart. Smiling, she went forward to greet him and was about to bow. Second Master Yen. When Yen Gu saw this, his heart skipped a beat. He quickly took a step back. You can't. Chu Luyue looked at him suspiciously. However, she saw that he looked a little nervous and reserved for some reason. He seemed very different from the high-spirited and calm Second Master Yen she had seen before. Second Master Yen, what's wrong? Yen Gu tried hard to pretend to be calm. His lips curled up unnaturally. No, nothing. Miss Lu Yu getting into Tianlu Academy is a joyous occasion. I'm here specially to congratulate you. Chu Liyue's eyes curved into crescents. Your congratulatory gift is really too big. Yen Gu waved his hand. It's nothing, it's nothing. I even brought some gifts. They're already outside the door. Chu Luyue unintentionally glanced around and saw that there seemed to be quite a number of boxes outside. The corners of her eyes twitched. Was he giving gifts based on boxes? Second Master Yen, you're too polite. Yen Gu forced a smile. He bought the title deed of his master's wife for only 300,000 taels of silver. If he had known, he would not have courted death. Digression. Today's second watch period. Please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 84. This is a small gift to show my respect. Please accept it, Miss Lu Yu. Chu Luyue glanced at the boxes of gifts that were piled up at the entrance and fell silent. A small gift. Did Yen Gu have some misunderstanding about this term? Or did he think that Jinbao Pavilion had too much money? However, Chu Luyue had no choice but to accept it when she saw how Yen Gu insisted that she accept it or look down on him. Since it's Second Master Yan's kind intentions, Lu Yu will accept it. Yen Gu heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that she finally agreed to accept it. God knew that when he heard that his master had chosen a gift for Chu Luyue, his soul was almost scared out of his wits. He could never have imagined that his master's rumored wife was actually the eldest daughter of the Chu family, Chu Luyue, who had just made a deal with them. That's great. That's great. I really didn't expect Miss Lu Yu to be so talented. You really gave us a fright. This was the truth. Who would have known that Chu Luyue, who had always been regarded as a good-for-nothing, could actually get into Tianlu Academy and even achieve excellent results? With this talent and this forbearance, it was no wonder that his master, who had never been close to women, would be tempted. Yen Gu had interacted with Chu Luyue during the deal at the hunting ground, so he admired her a lot. Now that he knew that his master liked her, his attitude was naturally better. He looked at Chu Ning and sighed. I heard that Lord Chu Ning has recovered from his old injuries and is now the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guards. I haven't congratulated you yet. Second Master Yen, you're too polite. Chu Ning went forward and looked at Chu Luyue lovingly. If it weren't for he paused and didn't continue speaking. Although Yu had passed all 3 examinations in Tianlu Academy, the most popular result was that she was second in the Xian Master examination, followed by first in the Warrior examination. As for the Celestial Physician examination, almost no one mentioned it. She didn't take the Celestial Physician examination. Even during the examination, her performance didn't seem to be ideal. She barely passed. Chu Ning originally thought that she would pass the Celestial Physician examination, but now it seemed that she had deliberately concealed this. Although he didn't know the reason, she must have her reasons for doing so. At least, she had kept a trump card. Chu Luiyue smiled and continued. Father, what are you saying? Us father and daughter have depended on each other for so many years. Now, we have finally made it. Yu has you. Who knows how much good fortune she has? Chu Ning's eyes welled up with tears. Yu is right. We must have a good celebration. Second Master Yen, please. Inside was naturally referring to the most central area of the place. Yen was that support for Yayu and their father's support. With Jinbao Pavilion's status in the Imperial City, it was rare for them to receive such treatment. Yan Gu smiled in response, but his gaze subconsciously drifted to Chu Luiyue. Ha ha ha. Lord Chu Ning, Miss Lu Yu is the host today. Please go ahead. What a joke. How would he dare to walk in front of his master's wife? Chu Luiyue realized that Second Master Yen was a little strange today. However, this wasn't the time to ask. Seeing Yan Ji's insistence, Chu Luiyue didn't force him. Second Master Yen, please go ahead. You can do whatever you want. Yan Gu immediately agreed happily. Chu Luiyue's heart tingled, and she asked in a seemingly casual manner. He asked casually, Second Master Yen, I heard that a high-level fiend appeared in the hunting ground. What level is it? When Yan Gu heard this, he felt a little guilty and coughed. Actually, we only found traces of a high-level fiend in the hunting ground, but we haven't seen what it is exactly. However, its level shouldn't be low. Chu Luiyue nodded. High-level fiends were rare, and this was a serious matter. It was normal that Yan Gu didn't want to talk about it in detail. Chu Ning glanced outside the door. Apart from Yan Ji's men, no one else had come. He couldn't help but say, Second Master Yen, thank you for booking the entire Phoenix restaurant today. I really don't know how to repay you. However, there shouldn't be many people here today. I'm afraid it's a little wasteful. Yan Gu chuckled but didn't say anything. Wasteful? Even that wouldn't be enough. Young Master Si Ting has arrived. The second announcement shocked the few people waiting in Phoenix restaurant. Chu Luiyue looked up and saw a young man in a blue brocade robe walk in. This young man had sharp brows and bright eyes. He was handsome like a sharp sword, and his aura was cold and noble. It was Si Ting. Why is he here? Chu Ning was surprised. As the undisputed #1 family in the capital, the Si family rarely interfered with other families' disputes. Why would they send someone here this time? Furthermore, it was Si Ting, who was the most famous and had the highest status among the younger generation of the Si family. Today's banquet was a battle between the father and daughter and the Chu family. Everyone knew that if they came, it meant that they were on the opposite side of the Chu family. Logically speaking, there was no need for the Si family to get involved in this mess. Even if they had to choose, they would choose the Chu family. Why, in the blink of an eye, Si Ting had already walked over. He first greeted Chu Ning. Si Ting greets Uncle Chu. Chu Ning hurriedly said, Si Ting, you don't have to be so polite. Si Ting had a faint noble and distant aura, but his expression was calm and his actions were appropriate. It didn't make people feel uncomfortable at all. You. Master Si asked you to come. Chu Ning asked hesitantly. Si Ting nodded. Master has been busy with work recently and can't come personally, so he asked Si Ting to represent him. Master was very happy when he heard that you had broken through to the 5th stage. He said that he would like to spar with you when he has time. Actually, Si was only a few years older than Chu Ning, and the two of them used to be friends. However, after Chu Ning was injured and Si Yi became the master of the Si family, the two of them rarely interacted with each other. Based on Si Ye's current status, there was really no need for him to come personally. However, the fact that he sent Si Ting, who was the eldest young master, was already very important. This was enough to show the Si family's attitude. Chu Ning sighed in his heart. Okay. However, I'm here today to represent Master and also to represent myself. As Si Ting spoke, he looked at Chu Luiyue. Miss Chu and I are now under the same Xian Master. It's only right for me to come and congratulate you. The academy was divided into 3 major factions: Warrior, Xian Master, and Celestial Physician. There weren't many Xian Masters, so they were more united and had a better relationship with each other. It was normal for Si Ting to do this. Chu Luiyue smiled. Thank you. Si Ting felt that the girl's smile was as bright as the sun, making it hard for him to look straight at her. His heart skipped a beat, and that strange feeling from before surfaced again. He nodded slightly and instinctively turned his head away. The academy is on holiday, so many people are not in. Si Yang has already gone to call the others. They will be here later. Si Yang, 5th young master of the Si family, O Zhen, 2nd young master of the O family, 4th young mistress of the Sun family, Sun Xiaoxiang, and the daughter of General Zhenan, Wu Yingying. Chu Luiyue looked up and saw a group of young men and women rushing over. The person in front was Si Yang, who looked very excited. Phoenix Restaurant. We must eat until Chu Luiyue is broke this time. Okay. The group cheered loudly. I really didn't expect this. She's actually so powerful. I can't even eat at Phoenix Restaurant once in 3 months. That's right. I came out late last time for the assessment and didn't even see what she was like. Today, I must see what kind of person she is. Our 2nd place Xian Master went to take 1st place Warrior. Don't you think those people are about to die from anger? Ha 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 ha. Don't fight with me. I'm going to have a drink with her later. The loud laughter immediately livened up the entire Phoenix restaurant. Si Yang looked up and saw Si Ting. He blinked at him. Big brother. I've called everyone here. There's still more. Si Ting replied with a faint but his hands in his sleeves gradually clenched into fists. Chu Luiyue blinked. Si Ting, did you call them here? Si Ting clenched his jaw. Not really. We're all from the same sect, so it's more lively if we come together. At the side, Yan Gu raised his eyebrows. Good lad, is he trying to compete with Master? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 85. That's right. We're all Xian Masters, so we're on the same side. How can we not support you when you're holding a banquet? Si Yang did not realize that he had sold Si Ting out with one sentence. He jumped in front of Chu Luiyue and clicked his tongue in wonder at Chu Luiyue. But speaking of which, you're really generous. You booked the entire Phoenix restaurant? That must be a lot of money. Even though he was the 5th young master of the Si family, he could not just come and go as he pleased. Chu Luiyue glanced at Yan Gu. Actually, we have to thank 2nd Master Yan from Zhenbao Pavilion for helping us with this. Si Yang and the rest were stunned when they heard of Zhenbao Pavilion. They then noticed Yan Gu standing at the side. The few of them quickly greeted Yan Gu. 2nd Master Yan. Yan Gu waved his hand and laughed. Don't stand on ceremony, everyone. Miss Lu Yu is the star today. I'm just here to congratulate you on behalf of Jinbao Pavilion. Everyone was speechless when they heard this. Who was Jinbao Pavilion? There were only a handful of people in the entire Imperial city who dared to offend them. They heard that they stood all the aristocratic families up last time, but they did not get into any trouble. Congratulating them on behalf of Jinbao Pavilion. That was easy to say. If word got out, everyone would know that Jinbao Pavilion wanted to support Chu Luiyue. Si Yang and the rest could not help but steal a few more glances at Chu Luiyue. Everyone used to say that Chu Luiyue was a good-for-nothing, but she got into Tianlu Academy with excellent results. Although she had fallen out with the Chu family, she had Jinbao Pavilion backing her up in the blink of an eye. Most of the rumors about Chu Luiyue were probably not true. This person. How many trump cards did she have? Si Yang, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and introduce them to us. A youth at the side nudged Si Yang and gave him a look. Only you and Si Ting saw her that day. We were behind and did not make it in time. Come. I'll introduce them one by one. This is O Zhen. Si Yang immediately reacted and introduced them to Chu Luiyue one by one. Just as he finished speaking, a few more young boys and girls came in. Without a doubt, they were all brought here by Si Yang. No, it should be said that Si Ting had invited him. Although these people were Xian masters from the same batch at Tianlu Academy, their identities were not simple. Most of them were descendants of aristocratic families. Although some of them came from outside the imperial capital, they were still people with strong backgrounds. After all, to become a mystic cultivator, one needed a lot of resources and support. Normal families couldn't raise a mystic cultivator. Their presence here more or less represented the wishes of their families. Of course, Chu Luiyue wasn't so naive as to think that they would come to support him just because he was a mystic cultivator. These people were most likely doing it for Si Ting and Si Yang's sake. Especially Si Ting. His attitude was undoubtedly the Si family's attitude. Si Yang had always been a person who liked to go crazy when people were around. He was used to liveliness. Chu Luiyue didn't know these people at first, but with Si Yang around, the atmosphere was good, and everyone quickly became familiar with each other. While Chu Luiyue was surprised by these people's arrival, these people were also very shocked by Yan Jiyi's arrival. They had come because of Si Ting and the Si family, but who knew that someone would come even earlier? It was the second in charge of Jinbao Pavilion. No wonder Chu Luiyue had the guts to completely fall out with the Chu family. With Jinbao Pavilion around, the Chu family had to be wary. The private rooms on the second floor have been arranged. Everyone, please. Su Hui's smile was especially friendly. Si Yang and the rest were a little surprised. The private rooms on the second floor. Aren't they usually closed? Normal people could only stay on the first floor when they came to Phoenix Restaurant. It was rumored that the private rooms on the second floor were extremely expensive, and it was difficult to book one even if one had the money. Usually, there is such a rule. However, Miss Lu Yu has booked the entire place today, so everything is naturally not a problem. Everyone is Miss Lu Yu's classmate, so naturally, you should be seated. Su Hui bent over and said with a smile. Si Yang and the rest looked at each other, feeling shocked once again. A private room on the second floor of Phoenix Restaurant. And the manager was leading the way personally. What kind of treatment was this? The group of young boys and girls were after all still young, and most of them had never encountered such a situation before. They could not help but feel excited and followed Su Hui upstairs. Soon, only Si Ting was left on the first floor. Seeing that everyone else had left, Si Ting felt that it was not appropriate for him to stay any longer. He moved his feet and planned to follow them upstairs. Si Ting, thank you so much for today. Chu Luiyue looked at him and said seriously. If Si Ting had not done anything in secret, these people would not have come today. Although she was not worried about this problem, she still had to thank him for his good intentions. Si Ting glanced at her quickly. There seemed to be a glint in her bright black eyes. She seemed to have seen through everything. Si Ting's heart suddenly started to beat faster. He instinctively turned around and hurried up to the second floor. It's nothing. You don't have to thank me. Chu Luiyue looked at his back view and blinked in confusion. Then, she could not help but burst out laughing. Who would have thought that the cold and sharp young master of the Si family would be shy? Hearing the laughter behind him, Si Ting paused in his steps and felt his face burning up. At this moment, he suddenly felt that everything about him had been seen clearly by someone. He felt guilty for some reason. Miss Lu Yu, are you satisfied with this arrangement? Yan Gu suddenly asked. Chu Luiyue smiled and held her forehead helplessly. Second Master Yan, your thank you gift is indeed a little expensive. Even if a high-level fiend appeared in the hunting ground, it would not be able to cover the cost of booking the entire Phoenix restaurant. It's already too expensive for you to book the entire place for 3 days. I didn't expect that you would even persuade Manager Su to open up the private room on the second floor. Even if Lu Yu sold you another hunting ground, it would not be enough. Won't the master of Jinbao Pavilion have any objections to this? Yan Ji's heart thumped as he heard this. My dear mistress, the entire Jinbao Pavilion is yours. Why are you still saying all this? It seems that master is really slow. This person in front of me clearly has many things that she does not know. He rolled his eyes and grinned. You're treating me like an outsider. Actually, to tell you the truth, all of these arrangements were ordered by the first master. That person. Chu Luiyue was stunned. She had only wanted to test him. She did not expect Yan Gu to admit it directly. But, she did not know that mysterious master. Why would he help her so much? She did not believe that it was just because of the hunting ground. I have never met the master of Jinbao Pavilion. Why, O Xiangtian, the head of the O family, Sun Xia, the head of the Sun family, Jiang Yuan, the Xiangnan governor, Mo Qing. At this moment, the announcement was heard again. Hearing this name, everyone was shocked and looked at the door. Yan Gu glanced from the corner of his eye and indeed saw Si Ting, who was going up the stairs, stop in his tracks. He laughed and said loudly, the master of Jinbao Pavilion has ordered you to attend. The first master has ordered that your banquet must be lively. Digression, what time is it tomorrow? Please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 86. Ha 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 ha. Brother Chu Ning, congratulations. The men had just entered the Phoenix restaurant, and their laughter had already spread. Chu Ning suppressed the shock in his heart and went forward to welcome them. Brother Xiangtian, why are you here? These people were all people of status. Logically speaking, they shouldn't be here. Brother Chu Ning, you've made a comeback after so many years. Now, you're the Imperial Guard's commander-in-chief. Your beloved daughter just happened to be admitted to Tianlu Academy. Her talent is amazing. Of course, we're here to celebrate. Oh, Xiangtian said as he patted Chu Ning's shoulder. The others nodded as well. Clearly, they had the same reason for coming. The doubt in Chu Ning's heart grew. These people were indeed acquainted with him, but they weren't very close to each other. After all, they were all outstanding people in their respective families. How could they be so close to each other? During his down-and-out years, his family was deserted, and very few people cared about him. Even if he and you were no longer the same as before, these people didn't need to lower their status like this. He couldn't help but glance at Yan Gu. He had also heard the conversation clearly from the side. That Jinbao Pavilion shopkeeper said that he wanted Er's banquet to be lively. Other than booking the entire Phoenix restaurant, could it be that he had even invited guests for them? Brother Chu Ning, is this your daughter? Oh Xiangtian and the others looked at Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue greeted them one by one. Like father, like daughter. Brother Chu Ning, you have such an outstanding daughter. I'm so envious of you. Oh Xiangtian exclaimed. He meant what he said. Who in the Imperial City didn't know that Chu Luiyue was a rare martial warrior and mystic genius? Most importantly, she was extremely talented in both areas. On the first day of school, she took first place in the martial warrior exam and second place in the mystic exam. Who wouldn't be envious? A few years ago, it was rumored that Chu Luiyue was a good-for-nothing, and Chu Ning was in dire straits because of his injuries. Who would have thought that the father and daughter would soar so high? We're not late today, right? Sun Xia asked. Chu Ning smiled and shook his head. You're just in time. Please. At this moment, hearing the commotion downstairs, the young boys and girls who had already gone upstairs became restless. Why do I seem to have heard my father's name? Oh Zhen asked blankly. Could it be that I was beaten silly by my father this morning? It's possible. However, I also heard my father's name. Sun Xiaoxiang got up and walked out of the door. She looked down from the corridor. What he saw shocked him. My father is really here. Oh Zhen, your father is here too. You heard it right. Oh Zhen's face stiffened. He held his head in pain. No way. Did he chase me all the way here? When I said that I wanted to come this morning, he wouldn't agree no matter what. I had to run out with great difficulty. It's over, it's over. This time, I'm definitely going to be taught a lesson. No. I need to hide first. Oh Zhen got up like a carp and was about to jump out of the window on the other side. Why are you panicking? Wu Yingying grabbed Oh Zhen's collar with a look of disdain. Look at how useless you are. Isn't it just your father? If he wants to find trouble with you, can you hide? Oh Zhen pulled a long face. He really couldn't win against his father. Your father isn't here to find trouble with you. Si Ting, who had just gone upstairs, said calmly. Oh Zhen seemed to have seen a life-saving straw and hurriedly rushed over. Si Ting. You have to help me. If anything happens to me. They're here to congratulate you too. Si Ting's words successfully silenced them. Their faces were filled with disbelief. How is that possible? When I said that this morning, my father said that I was stupid. This. Oh Zhen mumbled. Sun Xiaoxiang exclaimed softly. They really came upstairs. They even have smiles on their faces. The few of them rushed forward and looked over. The few people downstairs were walking upstairs, chatting happily with Chu Ning and his daughter. At this moment, Oh Xiangtian looked up and saw Oh Zhen. The father and son looked at each other. Oh Zhen slipped and was about to slip away. Brothers, I'll go first, haha, Ah Zhen. So you're already here. Oh Zhen knew that he couldn't hide, so he could only smile stiffly. Father. Seriously, child. Don't you know to wait for me? Did you come empty-handed without even preparing a gift? Oh Zhen, who was waiting to be scolded, was speechless. But I've already brought the gift. Next time, you can't be so careless, okay? Oh Zhen widened his eyes. Who said this morning that it was not appropriate to offend the Chu family now? Who stopped him? Who said that he was stupid? Sun Xia tried to persuade him. Brother Xiangtian, don't be angry. The children only want to join in the fun. Why would they think about this? Our Xiaoxiang didn't bring anything either, right? As elders, we have to worry so much. Sun Xiaoxiang, who was innocently implicated, was speechless. Your private room is just next door, please. Su Hui was smart. He arranged for Sun Xiangtian and the others' private room to be further away from Ou Zhen and the others. Si Yang secretly gave Su Hui a thumbs up. After those people left, the group of young people still couldn't react for a long time. They're here for Master Chu Ning, right? Si Ting stood behind them and quietly looked down at the young girl downstairs. She was slender and had a head of black hair. She was quiet and calm. He knew that Ou Xiangtian and the others weren't here for Chu Ning. They were here for her. It was as if an invisible hand had shielded the entire capital from the wind and rain, holding up the sky for her. Who was that person? Digression: today's update will be updated from time to time. Please check your mobile phone users. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 87. Time trickled by, and there was an endless stream of people coming to Phoenix Restaurant. Many of the noble families in the capital city had sent people. The originally quiet Phoenix Restaurant quickly became lively. Everyone exchanged pleasantries with Chu Ning, but their gazes could not help but turn to Chu Luiyue. Some were curious, some were puzzled, and some were slightly fearful. To be able to make Second Master Yan of Jinbao Pavilion so attentive, this girl's identity was definitely not ordinary. At least, with Jinbao Pavilion backing her up, almost no one in the capital city would dare to provoke her openly. No wonder she dared to offend the crown prince and the Chu family so brazenly. With such a backing, it was not surprising. Of course, Chu Luiyue also noticed their gazes. She looked calm on the surface, but in fact, she was even more puzzled. Who exactly was the head shopkeeper of Jinbao Pavilion? Why did he help her, and what did he have that made these people so fearful? These people coming to Phoenix Restaurant today would inevitably offend the crown prince and the Chu family, but they still came. After all this was over, she would have to investigate properly. Chu Luiyue suppressed these thoughts and followed Chu Ning to greet everyone. Yan Gu was also at the side, greeting everyone one by one. He looked even more attentive than the father and daughter. Although Chu Ning had been in the limelight for a while, he had been quiet for many years. Now that he had suddenly recovered, he still felt a little awkward. As the second in charge of Jinbao Pavilion, Yan Gu was best at interpersonal relationships. With him around, Chu Luiyue and Chu Ning felt much more relaxed. Seeing this scene, some people could not help but whisper. Second Master Yan has always been a respectable person. Even the princes and princesses have to give him some face. When have I ever seen him treat someone like this? Exactly. I heard that Jinbao Pavilion was coming this morning, but I did not think much of it. I just thought that Chu Ning had spent a lot of effort to invite them. Who would have thought that? It was obviously Second Master Yan who rushed over. Sigh, don't you think that Second Master Yan seems to value Chu Luiyue a lot? Even, a little cautious. Chu Luiyue would occasionally say a few words, and he would treat them especially seriously. TSK, could it be that Second Master Yan has taken a liking to this person? Sure. Be careful of what you say. You guys are late so you don't know. Just now, Second Master Yan said it himself. This is their big master's order. Strange, doesn't he already have a wife? Who knows what methods Chu Luiyue used? Anyway, with Jinbao Pavilion, the crown prince and the Chu family wouldn't dare to do anything to her for the time being. In the future, I'm afraid there will be more good shows. Are you telling the truth? Oh, Xiangtian and the others are there. In the Lu family, everyone was shocked after hearing Lu Jitao's words. It can't be any more real. I originally thought that since Chu Luiyue had offended the crown prince and the Chu family, even if he booked the entire Phoenix Restaurant, no one would go. Who knew that not long after, more and more people would arrive? Especially since there were many people with high statuses among them. Didn't I come back immediately? Lu Jitao's heart trembled as he recalled those famous names. Even if it was a banquet for the princes and princesses, there might not be so many people attending. Everyone in the Lu family was silent. Lu Fian listened by the side and was disdainful. So what? No matter how powerful the O family is, they are still far from us. Apart from the royal family, aren't the 4 aristocratic families the most powerful in the capital? Other than Si Ting and Si Yang who went, the other 3 families didn't do anything. It's a waste for those people to go. The head of the Lu family, Lu Ming, pulled a long face. Stupid. Individually, they can't compare to the 4 aristocratic families. But together, they can't be ignored. On account of Chu Ning's promotion to the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guards, it's not enough for so many of them to go personally. There must be something fishy going on. Lu Fian was unhappy to be reprimanded. But seeing Lu Ming's ugly expression, she didn't dare to rebut. I don't care if others go or not. Anyway, I'm not going. That Chu Luiyue ruined Minmin's face out of jealousy. If I go, she might ruin my face too. Lu Jitao, who was listening by the side, couldn't help but snort. Sister, I don't agree with this. Minmin is pretty, but Chu Luiyue is much prettier than her. How can she be jealous? I think Minmin must have done something to offend her. That's why she got herself into trouble. 4th brother, what do you mean? Don't tell me you like that slut. Lu Fian widened her eyes and scolded angrily. Lu Jitao sneered secretly. Lu Fian often acted like a tyrant at home because she had been admitted to Tianlu Academy. She acted as if she couldn't offend anyone. He couldn't stand it. Am I not telling the truth? Besides, Chu Luiyue is now a genius that everyone envies. She has a commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guards as her father. I'm afraid there are many people who want to marry her. Minmin's reputation and face have been ruined. The crown prince won't be nice to her in the future. Sister, I advise you to stay away from her. Enough. Shut up. Lu Ming shouted sternly. Today, all of you stay at home obediently. You're not allowed to go anywhere. I'm going to the crown prince's mansion. It wasn't easy for them to build a good relationship with the crown prince. At such a time, they had to show their loyalty to the crown prince. No matter how powerful Jinbao Pavilion was, they couldn't interfere with the imperial court. In country Yaoqin, the person who could sit on the throne had the final say. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 88. Unlike the liveliness at Phoenix Restaurant, the atmosphere in Crown Prince Mansion today was exceptionally cold. Everyone in Crown Prince Mansion knew that the Crown Prince had been in a bad mood ever since Tianlu Academy's midterm examination ended. Everyone in the mansion was on tenterhooks, afraid that they would do something wrong and incur the Crown Prince's wrath. As usual, Rongjin sat in the study and read the booklets. However, he was in a bad mood and could not read a single word. A beautiful girl's face kept appearing in his mind, and he could not get it out of his mind. 5 minutes passed, and he read the booklets but did not approve a single word. In the end, he could only put the booklets down in frustration and rub his brows. Song Yuan, how's the Chu family doing? Song Yuan, who was carefully serving outside, heard the voice and bowed respectfully. Your Highness, 3rd Missy Chu is recuperating in bed. She doesn't seem to be doing well. Rongjin looked up and glanced at him. Pa! He threw the booklets in his hands on the table, and his voice became colder. You know what I'm asking. Song Yuan's body trembled, and he hurriedly knelt on the floor. Your Highness, the Chu family sent news overnight. There are almost no restaurants in the Imperial City that are willing to accept their banquet. Rong Jin closed his eyes, and he finally felt better. So what if Chu Luiyue was a double genius? Without the support of her family background, she was isolated and helpless. She would know the consequences of going against him. When she was at her wit's end, she would definitely regret breaking off the engagement with him. I have a restaurant under my name. Send someone to tell her that if she's willing to beg for mercy, I can give her a way out and help her this once. Song Yuan did not move, but his expression became awkward. Your Highness, this Chu Liuyue's banquet has already been booked by a restaurant. Rong Jin froze. Zhenbao Pavilion booked the entire Phoenix restaurant to celebrate Chu Liuyue's Walla. Rong Jin swept everything on the table to the floor, and his face was terrifyingly cold. Song Yuan did not dare to raise his head. He was also shocked when he received the news, but that was not the most shocking thing. Besides, Your Highness, rumors are spreading in the Imperial City because of this incident. They say that Chu Luiyue has already found Zhenbao Pavilion to back her up, and many people have already gone to Phoenix Restaurant on account of Zhenbao Pavilion. A wave of pressure suddenly descended. Song Yuan did not dare to resist. His chest trembled as he was sent flying, crashing heavily onto the ground. Puff! He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, but he immediately got up and knelt. Your Highness, please calm down. Rong Jin clenched his fists tightly, and the anger in his heart almost burned him to ashes. Appease my anger. How could he not be angry? He had finally broken off his engagement with Chu Luiyue with great difficulty and had even endured the scolding of his imperial father. But what about Chu Luiyue? He had become a genius in the blink of an eye. They even celebrated. It was as if she was afraid that others would not know that she had been admitted to Tianlu Academy. She was clearly provoking him and the Chu family. The more glamorous she was now, the more he and the Chu family would be mocked. I was wondering where she got her guts from. It turned out that she had already hooked up with Zhenbao Pavilion. Rong Jin's brows were tightly knitted as he paced back and forth. Finally, he coldly said, immediately send someone to investigate Zhenbao Pavilion's background. Your Highness. Song Yuan looked up in shock and hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Your Highness, please reconsider. Zhenbao Pavilion has a mysterious background and shocking wealth. It's not easy to provoke them. You also know that there were people who secretly investigated Zhenbao Pavilion before, but they all returned empty-handed. There's really no need for you to cause trouble for yourself over this matter. How could Rong Jin not know that even his imperial father was secretive about Zhenbao Pavilion? Otherwise, he would never have given up on the hunting ground incident so easily. However, if he tolerated it once or twice, it would only happen more often in the future. Check. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 89. The people in the imperial capital knew how to read the situation. When Ou Xiangtian and the others found out that Zhenbao Pavilion had booked Phoenix Restaurant for Chu Luiyue, they immediately changed their attitude and rushed over. When news of their arrival spread, many people who were originally neutral changed sides and came one after another. The Crown Prince and the Chu family were not to be trifled with, but Zhenbao Pavilion was even more so. Previously, the Crown Prince had suffered at Zhenbao Pavilion's hands but didn't do anything about it. As such, groups of people began to rush over from all over the imperial capital. By noon, the huge Phoenix restaurant was already full. Manager, the private rooms on the second floor are all full. The main hall on the first floor is also full. However, there are still a dozen guests outside who haven't taken their seats. The servants of Phoenix Restaurant were all so busy that their feet barely touched the ground. Although business was usually good, the second floor was rarely open to the public, so it wasn't this exaggerated. However, now that Chu Luiyue had booked the entire restaurant, the first and second floors were all full. It still wasn't enough. Su Hui also had a headache. He looked apologetically at Chu Ning and the others. Lord Chu Ning, Miss Lu Yu, Second Master Yen, what do you think we should do? Phoenix Restaurant was an extremely high-end and elegant place. When had so many people ever come? Chu Ning was also worried. Everyone who comes is a guest. Moreover, their status is not ordinary. It won't be good if we neglect them. Manager Su, are there really no more seats? Su Hui sighed helplessly and smiled. Lord Chu Ning, there really are no more seats. We can't let the guests sit in the corridor in the middle of the lake, right? For a moment, everyone fell silent. Chu Luiyue looked at Yen Gu. Second Master Yen, you've invited too many people. Miss Lu Yu, don't misunderstand. Zhenbao Pavilion didn't invite those who came later. Yen Gu hurriedly waved his hands. Those who could be invited by him were all people of status. Among the people who came later, there were many whom he didn't think highly of. However, they came and they even had invitations. Lord Chu Ning, you've sent out too many invitations. Chu Ning coughed and clenched his fists. At first, I thought that no one would come, so I sent out more. At that time, he thought that everyone would come, but who would have thought that almost everyone would come? This time, the venue was actually not enough. Chu Luiyue naturally knew what he was thinking. For a moment, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She pondered for a moment and suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Lord Zhao, may I trouble you to make a trip? Zhao Ming, who was standing at the side, immediately said, Miss Lu Yu, what are your orders? Chu Luiyue took out an invitation card and handed it to him. Lord Zhao, please deliver this invitation card to the Chu clan. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone present changed slightly. What are you planning to do? Chu Ning frowned. Today was a great day, so he didn't want to have anything to do with the Chu family. Zhao Ming hesitantly took the invitation. Miss Lu Yu, are you sure you want to do this? Chu Luiyue nodded. Miss Lu Yu, the space in Phoenix Restaurant is already insufficient. Why are you still sending out invitations? And, to the Chu clan. Yen Gu couldn't understand her thoughts and couldn't help but ask. Chu Luiyue looked at the disapproving Chu Ning and smiled. Father, do you still remember the servant sent by the Chu clan this morning? Of course I remember. But why mention him? When they returned to Phoenix Restaurant with Su, they had already sent that servant away. Have you forgotten? He said that if we don't have a place to hold the banquet, we can ask them for help. Doesn't the Chu clan have a few restaurants? Chu Ning slowly widened his eyes. You mean? Chu Luiyue tapped on the invitation card and curved her red lips. The restaurant is not good enough. Naturally, we can't let our distinguished guests suffer there. However, we can let their people bring tables and chairs over. On the street outside the Phoenix Restaurant, there are still quite a few tables. As for the tea, wine, and food, Phoenix Restaurant will still provide them. At the same time, their people can also stay behind to help out, so that we don't have a shortage of people. Isn't it killing many birds with one stone? Zhao Ming asked in a daze. Is this okay? Why can't it be okay? Didn't they say that they can give us a discount on account of our past relationship? Chu Luiyue smiled. Chu Luiyue can still afford this amount of money. His words left them dumbfounded, and it took them a while to react. Yen Gu couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. Miss Lu Yu, you're really amazing. This was no longer a slap to the face, this was simply tearing down the Chu clan's face and trampling it on the ground. If this invitation card was sent to the Chu clan, they would probably vomit blood from anger. As expected of the person favored by the master, her methods were truly admirable. Chu Luiyue urged, Lord Zhao, I'll have to trouble you. Ah. All right. This subordinate will go right away. Zhao Ming grinned and immediately headed to the Chu clan with the invitation card. Su Hui came back to his senses and cupped his hands. Ms. Luyue, you're really smart. Shopkeeper Su is too kind. I hope you won't find us troublesome. How could I? Su Hui shook his head and sighed in his heart. The Chu clan must have had the misfortune of 8 lifetimes to have offended such a person. They originally thought that they could use the Chu clan's power to teach her a lesson, but who knew that they would kick an iron plate? The Chu clan was afraid that they would become the capital's laughingstock again. Chu Luyue glanced outside the door. She rested her chin on her hand and tapped her chin. I remember that the Crown Prince also has a restaurant under his name, right? You can find a better reading experience from the Love Network. Chapter 90. Tell him to get lost. First Elder tore the invitation to shreds, his body trembling in anger. Tell him to tell Chu Luyue that since they have cut ties with the Chu family, they have nothing to do with us in the future. Yes. Yes. The page boy saw that First Elder was unusually angry and did not dare to stay. He hurriedly retreated. The other people in the hall also looked very upset. Who sent that person this morning? First Elder asked angrily. No one spoke. Paw. First Elder slammed the table hard, and the corner of the table immediately broke into pieces. Speak. Chu Yen shrank back, but he still took a step forward and said softly, I only wanted to humiliate them. Who knew? Who knew? Humiliate. Why don't you open your eyes and take a look? Who is humiliating who now? If this gets out, the Chu family will lose all face. It's all your fault for acting on your own. Chu Yen felt very aggrieved. At that time, it wasn't as if the First Elder didn't know about this. Wasn't he very supportive of it at that time? Now that the situation had taken a turn for the worse, he turned hostile as if it was all his fault. No one knew that she would do such a thing. First Elder's face was terrifyingly gloomy. This was not the most important thing. The most troublesome thing now was that half of the Imperial city's reputable people had already gone to Phoenix Restaurant. No matter what the reason was, the outcome was already set. From now on, Chu Ning and Chu Luyue would definitely gain a foothold in the Imperial city. First Elder, I heard that the Lu family head has already gone to Crown Prince Mansion. What do you think, should we do now? Someone asked. First Elder took a deep breath. Because of Chu Luyue and Chu Xianmin, the Crown Prince was currently in a fit of anger. He would definitely not be nice to the Chu family. They originally thought that they could use Chu Xianmin to build a relationship with the Crown Prince. Who knew that things would turn out like this? However, they could not lose the Crown Prince Mansion's support now. I'll go there personally. The Chu family's rejection was within Chu Luyue's expectations. She calmly asked Su Hui to send people to ask for help from other restaurants. At the same time, she didn't forget to send an invitation to the Crown Prince's residence. Chu Luyue didn't care if Rong Jin came or not. However, she was more than happy to cause trouble for the other party. Unlike the previous repeated rejections, this time, many restaurants immediately expressed their agreement. Their attitude was poles apart from that of the morning. On the street outside the Phoenix restaurant, tables after tables of banquets were set up, taking up almost half of the street. Heads were moving, and the aroma of wine assailed their nostrils. It was truly bustling. The focus of everyone's discussion was naturally related to Chu Ning and Chu Luyue. Who would have thought that the father and daughter who had once been bullied and humiliated would actually be able to enjoy such glory today? 30 years in the East, 30 years in the West. As Chu Ning listened to the countless congratulatory words, he felt rather emotional. Only he knew that all of this was because of you, Brother Chu Ning, if I remember correctly, Lu Yu is already of marriageable age. Now that she's free, and you've just been promoted, have you considered which family's talents? Yeah. Your daughter is so outstanding. Many people in the Imperial City have their eyes on her. Haha. Brother Chu Ning, what do you think of my son? And my nephew? My nephew is also a student of Tianlu Academy. They definitely have a lot to talk about when they're together. Chu Ning broke out in a cold sweat. After experiencing the Crown Prince's incident, he was more guarded in his heart. For the time being, he didn't want to get engaged so early. Everyone, my is still young. Now, Prince Li has arrived. This voice interrupted Chu Ning's words and attracted everyone's attention. Countless pairs of eyes looked over simultaneously. Prince Li. After that person returned to the Imperial City, he didn't see many guests. As a result, most people didn't know what he looked like. Why did he come to such an occasion today? Digression, today at 5 p.m. tomorrow at what time? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 91. A man wearing a white brocade robe with golden embroidery slowly walked over. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. As he walked, there seemed to be a dark light flowing on his clothes. At this time, the sun was just right, but his body seemed to be surrounded by a cold aura, like the top of a snowy mountain that could not be climbed. A pair of sword-like eyebrows slanted to his temples, a straight nose, and bright and deep starry eyes. Even the most beautiful night sky could not compare to them. As long as one look, it could easily make people fall into them. His thin crimson lips curved slightly, which was just right. His lips, which were originally a little fickle, were warmed up by the lip bead in the middle. His eyes were the most quiet and brilliant starry night in the world, but his lips were the most ambiguous and seductive spring in the world. Gentle as jade, but cold and noble, with a faint alienation between his eyebrows, it made people unconsciously look up to him. Everyone was quiet for a moment. Since this person came back, very few people had seen him, and most of the rest were actually seeing him for the first time. But no one would have thought that the rumored mysterious and weak Prince Li was actually born with such an appearance. Some women had already quietly blushed. Rong Xiao turned a blind eye to those gazes and walked straight to the innermost part. Chu Ning was the first to react, and came forward in surprise. Your Highness Prince Li. How come you have time to come today? In Chu Ning's view, Prince Li had saved his daughter from difficulties several times, and was really a great benefactor of him and his daughter. When everyone looked down on him and his daughter, only His Highness, Prince Li, gave them a helping hand, so he naturally treated Prince Li differently in his heart. He heard that during this time, Prince Li had been sick and refused all the visiting invitations. He did not have much hope, but he still sent an invitation out of courtesy. Who knew that he actually came in person? Chu Ning was naturally surprised and happy. Rong Xiao gently nodded and said with a smile. Lord Chu Ning's promotion is a happy thing. Recently, this prince's body has been a lot better, so I wanted to join in the fun and enjoy the joy. But today I am delayed because of some things. Lord Chu Ning won't mind, right? Chu Ning hurriedly said. I don't mind. You and I are overjoyed that your highness can come. Rong Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. His gaze finally landed on Chu Luyue, who was standing at the side. His gaze seemed to sweep past him. Oh. Does Miss Luyue think so too? His tone sounded very polite. Who would have thought that this guy would stay in her room the night before? Chu Luyue cursed inwardly. Since you want to put on an act, then I'll play along. She curtsied. Father's thoughts are Lu Yu's thoughts. Your presence brings light to my humble dwelling. Rong Xiu looked at her perfunctory manner, and his smile deepened. Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. When did Princely get to know Chu Ning and his daughter? And it seemed like their relationship wasn't shallow. Otherwise, why would His Highness Princely turn down so many invitations and show up here today? This seventh prince was of noble status and represented the royal family. Although he was rarely in the capital in the past few years, he was conferred the title of princely as soon as he returned. It was clear that His Majesty liked him. When did Chu Ning get to know him? Your Highness, please come in. Although there were many people here today, no one had a higher status than princely. Thus, he naturally sat at the head of the table. In other words, he sat at the same table as Chu Ning and Chu Luiyue. Yan Gu was also seated at the same table. Your Highness, please take a seat. Lord Chu Ning, you don't have to be so polite. I'll do as you say. Chu Ning respected Rong Xiu very much, but Rong Xiu didn't put on airs. This made Chu Ning admire him even more. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but purse her lips when she saw him and Chu Ning chatting happily. Her father was completely deceived by Rong Xiu's appearance. Why aren't you pouring tea for His Highness? His Highness has helped us a few times and we haven't thanked him properly yet. Chu Ning said. Chu Luiyue had an idea. She reached out her hand and avoided the teapot. Instead, she picked up the wine jug beside it. The clear wine drew a line in the air and flowed into the wine cup. The clear bamboo leaf fragrance wafted into her nose. This is the best green bamboo leaf. Your Highness can try it. I'm sure you'll like it. Chu Ning was stunned. She stopped her in disapproval. His Highness has just recovered. How can he drink wine? Chu Luiyue blinked and looked at Rong Xiu. Your Highness, I saw that you were wearing thin clothes today. I was afraid that you would catch a cold, so I specially poured wine for you to warm your body. You don't like it? Rong Xiu looked at her bright eyes. Obviously, she did it on purpose. I really can't drink too much wine. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows and was about to take the wine jug away. Rong Xiu suddenly raised his hand and gently pressed down on her wrist. It was cold to the touch, but there seemed to be a fire burning there. However, since Miss Lu Yu personally poured the wine, how can I refuse? It was only for a moment, but he calmly withdrew his hand, as if he had really just stopped her. Chu Ning didn't see anything wrong. She smiled helplessly. My daughter is willful. Please don't blame her, Your Highness. Rong Xiu's thin lips parted slightly. It's fine. I'm already used to it. Chu Luiyue snorted in her heart. She turned her gaze and found that Yan Gu was still standing. Second Master Yan, why aren't you sitting? Yan Gu smiled awkwardly. No, my waist is a little uncomfortable. I'll just stand. Even if he ate a bear's heart and leopard's gall, he wouldn't dare to sit with his master. Digression, it's updated irregularly during the day. You can read it together later. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from AI Network. Chapter 92. Rong Xiu glanced at him with a half-smile. Second Master Yan, have a seat. Yan Ji's legs turned to jelly and he almost couldn't stand. Cold sweat broke out on his back. It was fine if others called him that, but this person also called him that. He was going to die. This is not appropriate, Yan Gu forced a smile. Your Highness is of noble status. I should, Miss Lu Yu asked you to sit. Don't stand on ceremony. Rong Xiu retracted his gaze. Yan Gu knew that it would be unreasonable to refuse again. He could only agree as he sat down with trepidation. Hey. Chu Luiyue looked at him strangely. Yan Ji's behavior today was really strange. Even if Rong Xiu was of noble status, he really didn't need to behave like this given Jinbao Pavilion status in the imperial capital. A vague thought flashed across her mind. But when she wanted to think about it carefully, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and took away the wine cup in front of her. "Young lady, just drink tea." As Rong Xiu spoke, he had already changed a new cup and poured her a cup of tea. His actions were so natural that no one present felt that there was anything wrong. Even Chu Ning's gaze towards him became more appreciative. Chu Luiyue looked down at the hot tea in front of her and raised her eyebrows. This was an eye for an eye. "Hey, why do you think Prince Li is here today?" So many people sent invitations to Prince Li's residence, but they were all rejected. What kind of ability does Chu Ning have to be able to invite this person? Who knows? Chu Ning's position as the commander of the Imperial Guards is not low, but it shouldn't be enough for Prince Li to lower his status. I heard that when fourth princess made things difficult for Chu Luiyue at the Crown Prince's birthday banquet, it was Prince Li who helped her out. Could it be that Prince Li has taken a liking to Chu Luiyue? How is that possible? He just returned to the imperial capital. How else do you explain why he stood up for Chu Luiyue? Does he not know that this is equivalent to offending the Crown Prince and the Chu clan? That's the point. In my opinion, Prince Li is taking advantage of this opportunity to provoke the Crown Prince. How could the Crown Prince not have any objections? He's just a sickly person. What's there to fight over, you don't know? I heard that His Highness Prince Li's birth mother was. At this point, that person suddenly felt fear in his heart and stopped, not daring to say anything more. The surroundings fell silent for a moment. Everyone looked at each other and changed the topic with tacit understanding. No matter what, after today, Chu Ning and Chu Luiyue can be considered to have a firm foothold in the imperial city. The Chu clan has lost all their face this time. I'm afraid they won't let it go so easily. The Chu clan hasn't had a decent genius for many years. Without Chu Ning and Chu Luiyue, I'm afraid their days will be difficult. The Chu clan has occupied the position of the four great clans for far too many years. Chu Luiyue had just taken a sip of tea when she suddenly heard a commotion outside. She got up and walked to the window to look down. Their room was the best location on the second floor. The window on one side was open, allowing them to see the lake in Phoenix restaurant and the street outside. Chu Luiyue saw a group of people hurriedly leaving not far away. Many of the stalls on the street had been knocked over, causing a huge commotion. However, the people who had their business disrupted did not dare to say anything. They could only hurriedly pack up their things. Chu Luiyue narrowed her eyes. Only then did she see that the departing group of people were wearing armor. They were the Imperial Guards. But what had happened to make them so anxious? At this moment, a person separated from the group and rode a horse toward Phoenix restaurant. "May I ask if Commander Chu Ning is here?" Su Hui was downstairs. When he saw this, he knew that something had happened and did not dare to delay. "Lord Chu Ning is indeed here. This one is the captain of the 7th Imperial Guard team, Ji Qingfeng. I request an audience with the commander." That person looked to be in his late 20s. His handsome face carried obvious anxiety. "Lord Ji, please wait a moment. This one will report this. Lord Ji, please come up," Chu Luiyue said. Ji Qingfeng looked up, only to see a slender figure by the window on the second floor. He did not care about anything else and immediately dismounted and rushed up. Although Chu Ning had never seen this person before, after he took office, he had a rough understanding of the situation in the Imperial Guards. Naturally, he knew the name Ji Qingfeng. "Greetings, Commander." Ji Qingfeng's expression was somewhat tense. He was about to bow when Chu Ning stopped him. "What happened?" Chu Ning frowned and asked. Commander, the fourth princess went to the hunting ground this morning. We just received news that the fourth princess accidentally fell off a cliff. Chapter 93. What? Chu Ning was shocked. The fourth princess always has someone protecting her. How did this happen? Ji Qingfeng shook his head. I'm not sure. It's just that there's a rapid river below the cliff. It's been an hour since the fourth princess fell, but we haven't found her yet. When His Majesty heard about this, he was furious. He has already sent the Imperial guards to search for the fourth princess. I'm here to invite you to come along. Chu Ning nodded quickly. Let's go. He was the commander-in-chief. He definitely had to go at this time. He had just taken a step when he suddenly thought of Chu Luiyue. He looked back at her apologetically. The fourth princess's matter is more important. Father, go quickly. But, Chu Ning hesitated. I'll take care of things here. Lord Chu Ning, you don't have to worry. Father has always doted on the fourth princess. Please do your best. Rong Xiu's words put Chu Ning at ease. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble your highness. With that, Chu Ning and Ji Qingfeng left quickly. The moment they stepped out of the room, Yan Gu stood up abruptly as if there were nails on the chair. Your Highness, Miss Lu Yu, the fourth princess got into trouble at the hunting ground of Zhenbao Pavilion. I'm afraid I have to go back immediately. Chu Luiyue understood and nodded. This is a serious matter. Second Master Yan has to go back and deal with it as soon as possible. No matter what, something happened in their territory, so they couldn't get away with it. Yan Gu quickly glanced at Rong Xiu and cupped his fists. Please excuse me today. Miss Lu Yu, please forgive me. Second Master Yan is a busy man. Lu Yu is already very grateful that you came personally today. Chu Luiyue shook her head. I'll send you off, no need. There are many guests today and Lord Chu Ning just left. You still have many things to do. I won't trouble you. I'll take my leave now. With that, Yan Gu left like the wind, without even looking back. Yan Qing, who was standing at the door, looked sympathetically at Yan Ji's back as he left in a hurry. So what if something happened to fourth princess? That sitting down just now must have left this guy with a shadow. If he stayed any longer, his heart might not be able to take it. Only Rong Xiu and Chu Luiyue were left in the bustling room. Rong Xiu rubbed his wine glass. There seemed to be worry between his eyebrows. His voice was slightly cold. I heard that the hunting ground is very dangerous. This time, fourth princess is in danger. Chu Luiyue glanced at him. Your Highness, something happened to the fourth princess. Aren't you going to take a look? Rong Xiu unhurriedly drank a cup of wine, and the mellow aroma of the wine spread out. He said indifferently, Imperial father has already sent the Imperial guards to search for him. If I go, I will only add to the trouble. It's better to wait here. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows. Here. Rong Xiu tapped his finger on the rim of the cup and looked at Chu Luiyue. I seem to have left something at your place. When this is over, I will go and get it when I have time. Chu Luiyue instinctively wanted to refuse. Why go through so much trouble? Why don't I go back and get it for you now? Rong Xiu paused and looked at her playfully. Do you want everyone to know that my clothes are at your place? Chu Luiyue said. But it seems even more inappropriate for your Highness to go to my place. Rong Xiu lowered his eyes and seemed to smile. He didn't seem to care. If I go at night, no one will see. Chu Luiyue, how shameless. After the Imperial guards left, Chu Ning also left. Many people felt that something was wrong and sent people to investigate in private. Many people knew that the fourth princess brought people to the hunting ground today. Moreover, the matter was so big that it was impossible to suppress it. The news spread quickly. Everyone was shocked. Many hunting grounds were more dangerous, but the fourth princess always had someone to protect her. How could such a serious situation happen? Moreover, if they weren't mistaken, the hunting ground that the fourth princess went to was the one that Jinbao Pavilion bought from Chu Luiyue some time ago. If something happened to the fourth princess, many people would be implicated. Some people's thoughts became active, and some even stood up to leave. Chu Luiyue obviously knew what these people were thinking. They were just fence-sitters swaying with the wind. She didn't mind it at all and generously sent him off. When she passed by Si Yang and the others' private room, she saw them standing at the door. "Are you leaving too?" Chu Luiyue asked. "What do you mean by leaving? Do you still have time to care about this now?" Si Yang went forward anxiously. "Do you know that the hunting ground where the fourth princess met with an accident is?" "I know." "Why are you so calm when you know? Aren't you afraid that His Majesty will punish you?" Not only Si Yang, but the others also looked nervous. They clearly felt that this matter was troublesome. "That hunting ground has nothing to do with me anymore. Besides, the fourth princess insisted on going in to hunt high-level fiends. This matter can't be blamed on anyone else, right?" Si Yang and the others were dazed. "That's right, but something seems wrong, but that's the fourth princess," Chu Luiyue smiled. Rongjin was tricked and didn't do anything, let alone Rongzhen. The fourth princess is lucky and has the emperor's protection. Nothing will happen to her. Let's just wait patiently. Si Yang and the others looked at each other and could only nod. News came in the evening. Fourth Princess Rongzhen accidentally fell off a cliff and broke both her legs. As she was attacked by the mysterious high-level fiend, she couldn't be treated in time. Her pearl of essence was broken, and she was completely useless. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 94. That night, in the palace, Jiaolan Hall. The moon hung high in the sky, and the moonlight tonight was especially cold. The atmosphere inside and outside Jiaolan Hall was heavy. The servants were even careful with their breathing, afraid that they would accidentally cause trouble for themselves. Their eyes were filled with panic and fear as they looked into the palace. The fourth princess had woken up 5 minutes ago. In this short period of time, she had already ordered the deaths of 5 servants. If things went wrong, it might be her turn to suffer. Paw! An ear-piercing sound was heard, and it was obvious that something had been smashed. Everyone kept quiet out of fear. No one would be able to accept becoming a useless person overnight, let alone the fourth princess, who had always been pampered and proud. "I don't believe it. I don't believe it." After such a long time, Rongzhen's voice was hoarse, but her voice sounded even more pitiful. "You must be lying. I'm very talented. How can I become a useless person?" In the hall, Rongzhen leaned against the bed. Her hair was messy, and her expression was sinister and crazy. She looked like a lunatic. A few people knelt in front of her bed. The person in front had his head smashed by something, and blood was dripping down. He looked very pathetic. Even though he was afraid, he could only bite the bullet and persuade her. "Fourth princess, your pearl of essence has been shattered, and even your Yuan meridian has been damaged. It will be difficult for you to cultivate in the future, you bunch of useless things. So what if my pearl of essence is shattered? I can just condense it again." Rongzhen suddenly interrupted him with a shrill voice. The few of them lowered their heads and kept quiet. Her pearl of essence had been shattered, and her body had suffered great damage. It was impossible for her to condense another pearl of essence. Celestial Physician. Celestial physician. If you can't do it, a celestial physician can. Rongjin refused to give up and accept this outcome no matter what. Looking at the few of them who kept quiet, Rongjin gradually lost hope. Actually, how could she not know what was waiting for her? But, how could she accept it? Zhen, your body is still very weak. Why aren't you recuperating? Someone hurried in from outside. It was the Empress. Upon seeing her, Rongjin's tears immediately fell. Mother! You must help your daughter. The Empress quickly walked over. Seeing her most beloved daughter like this, she was so distressed that she wanted to die. She carefully held her in her arms. Zhen, don't worry. Mother has already gone to invite those people. No matter what, Mother will definitely think of a way to help you. It's just that, you were too careless this time. Rongjin wanted to get up, but there was a sharp pain in her leg. Only then did she remember that her leg was also broken, and she couldn't help but feel even more frustrated. She said angrily, Imperial Mother. It was all that bastard's fault. If it wasn't for it, her daughter wouldn't have ended up like this. And that hunting ground. Imperial Mother, didn't you just go to find Imperial Father? Did he agree to close down the hunting grounds immediately? This hunting ground was sold to Zhenbao Pavilion by Chu Luiyue, so it definitely had something to do with them. This time, we must make them pay with their lives. The Empress's expression became a little stiff. She hesitated for a moment before she spoke with difficulty. Zhen, this matter happened because you insisted on going to the hunting ground. I'm afraid, it won't be easy to hold you accountable. Why? Rongjin pushed her away, but when she saw the Empress's hesitant expression, she instantly understood something. This is Imperial Father's intention. All of you can leave first. After the Empress dismissed everyone in the room, she sighed deeply and shook her head helplessly. You know your Imperial Father's character, Imperial Mother. Rongjin looked at her in disbelief. Imperial Father has always liked me the most. Now that everything is ruined, does Imperial Father not intend to pursue the matter? Then, how is she going to take revenge? The Empress closed her eyes. Who allowed you to go? It was Zhenbao Pavilion's hunting ground. I can only make you suffer for this matter. Chapter 95. Rongjin couldn't recover her senses for a long time. What was so taboo about a mere Zhenbao Pavilion? She was country Yao Chen's fourth princess. Now that she was in such a state, she didn't even have the right to pursue the matter. Mother, what's Zhenbao Pavilion's background? Why is father so protective of them? Does he not even care about his daughter's life? Rongjin couldn't understand. It was the same for brother Crown Prince previously. Zhenbao Pavilion snatched the hunting ground that he meticulously maintained, but nothing happened in the end. You also know that even the Crown Prince can't do anything to Zhenbao Pavilion. The Empress interrupted her. One was her son, and the other was her daughter. How could she not hate them? Thus, even if she knew that His Majesty treated Zhenbao Pavilion differently, she still went to beg them. But the outcome was as expected. His Majesty had no intention of punishing Zhenbao Pavilion at all. Besides, Zhenbao Pavilion rejected you multiple times when you wanted to go to the hunting ground. In the end, they made an exception and agreed because of your insistence. Many people know about this matter. Now that you're injured, who can you blame? So many people at the hunting ground saw it clearly. You insisted on chasing that bastard and ended up falling off the cliff. Even if they want to pursue the matter, what reason do they have? The Empress was also exasperated. Rongjin wasn't in the right at all. Now that she was in such a state, she could only admit defeat. Rongjin was speechless. But she had always been proud and conceited. How could she admit her mistake and regret it? Even so, aren't they in the wrong at all? What will happen to me in the future? Will I really become a good-for-nothing from now on? How can I bear with it? The Empress suppressed the surging emotions in her heart. Zhen, don't worry. I won't leave you in the lurch. If those people can't do anything, we'll think of another way. Soon, the Tianling dynasty's envoy will be here. Perhaps they'll have a way. Rongzhen's eyes lit up. Really? The Empress forced a smile. You know a thing or two about how powerful the Tianling dynasty is. Perhaps they really have a way. When the time comes, I'll definitely help you. At night, Chu Luiyue returned home and waited for a long time before Chu Ning returned. Chu Ning briefly explained the situation to her, then shook her head and sighed. It's a pity that the fourth princess was indeed quite talented in the past. Otherwise, His Majesty wouldn't have been so arrogant. From now on, I'm afraid. She recalled how Rongzhen had made things difficult for you, at the Crown Prince's birthday banquet and mocked you, for being a good-for-nothing. Who would have thought that in a blink of an eye, you would become a genius envied by everyone, and she would become a cripple henceforth. Back then, the father and daughter pair had been bullied so much. Who would have thought that things would turn out this way? Chu Luiyue smiled. Life is unpredictable. You have to pay back what you owe. No matter how she looked at it, Rongzhen was the one who caused this. She couldn't blame anyone else, especially not her. However, she inexplicably felt that this matter was a little strange. It was as if there was an invisible hand controlling everything. But she didn't know who it was. Oh right, father, have you found the magical beast that injured the fourth princess? Not yet. It's an extremely powerful high-level magical beast. Even the people protecting the fourth princess weren't its match. They don't even seem to know what it is. Although His Majesty ordered a thorough investigation, it's probably going to be difficult. I'll be busy during this period, so you have to be careful. Chu Ning was a little hesitant as he spoke. We're in the limelight these 2 days, so those people won't do anything. But after this period, I'm afraid. I'll send people to protect you secretly. Those people were naturally referring to the Chu family and the Crown Prince's people. He didn't believe that they would let this matter rest. Chu Luiyue smiled until his eyes turned into crescents. Don't worry, father. After the banquet ends in 2 days, the academy will start classes again. You've just taken office, and you're caught up with all these things. You'll be very busy, so I plan to stay at the academy during this period. What do you think? Chu Ning heaved a sigh of relief. He had actually almost forgotten about this. Compared to the outside world, Tianlu Academy was much safer. You can make the decision. Of course, father agrees. You're going to stay at the academy. Chu Luiyue had just returned to his room when he smelled a familiar cold fragrance. He looked up and saw that it was indeed Rongxiu. His deep gaze landed on her body. It was gentle but contained some kind of power. Chu Luiyue wasn't surprised by his arrival. This lord hid very well, and she couldn't do anything to him now. However, if he wanted to come, couldn't she just leave? Chu Luiyue nodded, took out his black cloak from the cupboard, and handed it to him with a smile. She smiled and said, So, Your Highness shouldn't come in the future. It's more important for you to recuperate in your residence. Rongxiu glanced at the cloak and took it with a slight smile. I didn't expect you, to be so concerned about my health. Chu Luiyue shrugged. Now that you've offended the Crown Prince, I'm afraid your days won't be easy. The Crown Prince clearly saw him as a thorn in his side. She could tell that during the birthday banquet in the palace. Now that he was on her side, the Crown Prince would only be angrier. When Rongxiu heard this, he suddenly bent down and moved closer to her. The distance between the two of them suddenly shortened, and they could smell each other's breaths. Chu Luiyue was about to step back when she saw two small versions of herself reflected in his eyes. His gaze was deep as if there was a surging undercurrent. His deep voice was like the wind plucking the strings of a zither. He gave up on you. I can't thank him enough. Digression, today at 5 p.m. tomorrow, mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 96. A thought flashed through Chu Luiyue's mind. That day at the Crown Prince's birthday banquet, he did it on purpose. But why? Your Highness, Chu Luiyue was about to ask clearly, but Rongxiu had already stood up. You have been busy all day, so this king will not disturb you. He stiffly put on his cloak and turned to leave. The tall black figure quickly disappeared into the ink-like night. Chu Luiyue looked in the direction he disappeared for a while, then gently exhaled, her fingers curling. Just now when Rongxiu was so close to her, her heart suddenly beat faster. Logically speaking, she would never allow a person to offend her again and again, but she did not seem to be annoyed by Rongxiu's proximity. Faintly, she seemed to firmly believe that Rongxiu would not harm her. However, she herself did not know where this inexplicable trust came from. After experiencing the heart-wrenching betrayal in her previous life, she thought that she would never get close to anyone again. But whether it was Chu Ning or Rongxiu, they seemed to be able to make her gradually dispel the wariness in her heart. Chu Luiyue thought for a while, but could not think of any reason, so she simply gave up. As usual, she sat cross-legged on the bed, continuing to cultivate and absorb the yuan qi of heaven and earth. After completing a cycle, she lay down to rest. For the next 2 days, the celebration at Phoenix Restaurant continued, but Rongxiu did not go again. This made those who wanted to use this opportunity to establish a relationship with Prince Li very disappointed. But his status was high, and it was already very rare for him to come, so it was normal for him not to come again. Many people wanted to ask Chu Luiyue for some information, but they were all dismissed by Chu Luiyue with a few words. Everyone could only vaguely guess that perhaps Chu Ning and Prince Li had some relationship, but they could not find out the specifics. From their conversation, Chu Luiyue and Prince Li did not seem to be familiar with each other. This could also be guessed. With Prince Li's status, how could he have any relationship with Chu Luiyue? Even if she was admitted to Tianlu Academy and was a martial artist and mystic master double genius, there was still a huge gap between her and Prince Li without the support of an aristocratic family. On the other hand, Chu Ning, the new Imperial Guard's commander, was the Emperor's trusted aide, so he was worth interacting with. But these 2 days, Chu Ning had been busy with the fourth princess's matter and did not appear at Phoenix Restaurant, which made many people feel regretful. With these few things stacked together, the crowd's attention on Chu Luiyue lessened significantly. Xiao 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 xiao, xiao xiao yu xiao xiao. It's xiao 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 yu no matter what. Chu Luiyue had Jinbao Pavilion support, so she was not to be trifled with. Xiao 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 yu xiao 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 was school, xiao xiao day. Many people had already arrived at the entrance of the academy, making it much livelier. Chu Luiyue alighted from the carriage and immediately attracted many people's attention. The originally noisy entrance immediately quieted down. Countless pairs of eyes looked over with different expressions. Little Lu Yu, you're finally here. Following this excited voice, a person walked quickly toward Chu Luiyue. It was Bai Qin. Teacher Bai Qin. Chu Luiyue greeted him. Bai Qin looked at her happily. I've been waiting for you for a while. Why are you only here now? I'm staying in the academy and have many things to pack, so I'm a little late, Chu Luiyue explained. Bai Qin chuckled. Your residence has already been arranged. Just follow me. Chu Luiyue nodded. Thank you for your trouble, Teacher Bai Chen. No trouble at all. You're now a popular figure in the academy. Many people want to snatch this opportunity. But they can't beat me, hee hee. Chu Liuyue's talent was obvious to everyone. After she chose to cultivate as a mystic cultivator, she had yet to choose a teacher. The mystic cultivator teachers were all very excited. Who wouldn't want such a talented disciple? Today was Chu Liuyue's first day of school. They naturally couldn't miss such a great opportunity to get close to her. Although Bai Chen didn't have much hope for himself, he liked Chu Liyue from the bottom of his heart, so he was happy to come. Is this your luggage in the carriage? Yes. It's all daily necessities. Then I'll find someone to help you. Before Bai Chen could finish speaking, a mocking female voice suddenly sounded from the side. Where did this lousy carriage come from? It actually dares to stop at the academy's entrance. This voice was somewhat familiar. Chu Liuyue's eyes turned and saw a familiar face. Lu Fian. She stood in the distance and covered her nose as she looked at Chu Liuyue's carriage in disgust. She didn't hide her disdain at all. Is this carriage made of rotten wood? Why does it have a moldy smell? Her gaze swept over Chu Liyue and she sneered. She deliberately raised her voice and said to the people around her, "Look, that horse's fur is of a mixed color. It's obvious that it's an inferior breed. Why would any respectable daughter of an aristocratic family use this kind of carriage?" The other women behind her also echoed her words. She's no longer a daughter of an aristocratic family. Of course, she can't compare to us. That's right. So what if she's a genius? Isn't she still poor? What a joke. Bai Chen's face darkened. He was about to flare up when Chu Liyue stopped him. Teacher Bai Chen, I know that carriages can't enter the academy, but I brought a little too many things. Can you call a few people to help? Bai Chen was stunned. Of course. Chu Liyue looked at Lu Fian and the others, who were laughing together, and smiled. Then I'll leave it to you guys. A better reading experience came from the Love Network. Chapter 97. Lu Fian's smile froze on her face. Who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? Chu Liyue had already left the Chu family and was nothing. Even if she was still the first miss of the Chu family, she did not have the right to do so. Lu Fian, this is the academy, not the Lu family. Why are you throwing a tantrum? Bai Chen was used to such situations, so he was not affected at all. He spoke harshly. If you want to throw your weight around, go back to the Lu family now. Lu Fian was reprimanded, so she restrained herself. However, it was impossible for her to be Chu Liyue's assistant. Mr. Bai Chen, Chu Liyue just enrolled today. Although she's in the same batch as us, it's not up to us to do these things, right? Bai Chen sneered. Although it's her first day here, she's much stronger and more talented than all of you. In Tianlu Academy, the strong are respected. Besides, I'm just asking you to help me carry something. Why are you so unwilling? Or is it that the words of a teacher don't work here? Lu Fian and the rest did not dare to go against Bai Chen. Seeing that they could not avoid it, they could only walk over unwillingly. Lu Fian glanced at the carriage. What good things could a poor family with no one to rely on have? She was worried that she would dirty her hands. Chu Liyue walked over and took out a black carved wooden box. A faint fragrance filled the air. Bai Chen took a deep breath and felt the fragrance instantly fill his internal organs, making him feel comfortable all over. His eyes lit up. This is a green plum tree. Mr. Bai Chen, you have good eyesight. Lu Fian frowned when she heard the green plum tree. Actually, when Chu Liyue took out the wooden box, she had smelled the faint plum blossom fragrance. She guessed that it might be a green plum tree, but she did not want to believe it. This tree was extremely precious and only grew in extremely cold places. It grew an inch every 3 years, and it would only bloom after 100 years. Ordinary people might not even see it once in their lifetime, let alone own it. Your bracelet seems to be carved from green plum tree, right? A woman beside him couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Lu Fian's face turned pale. When she had been admitted to Tianlu Academy, her mother had specially bought her a bracelet made of plum wood as a reward. She liked it very much and often wore it on her hand, so everyone who was close to her knew about it. This bracelet had attracted the envy of many people. But now, Chu Luiyue actually took out a wooden box carved from green plum wood. Just the material alone was several times more expensive than the bracelet. Her wooden box must have cost a lot, right? Another woman murmured. What do you know? There were also good and bad plum trees. Don't be fooled by the size of this wooden box. It might just be made from some cheap leftover materials. Lu Fian said snappily. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows. So Miss Lu has seen the green plum wood before. Then I'm relieved. You can take this thing. Lu Fian was stunned. She felt something heavy in her hand. Chu Luiyue had already placed the item in her hand. It was warm and delicate to the touch. She could even vaguely feel the veins on it. The fragrance was also stronger than before. She could not help but look down and see the exquisite carvings of plum blossoms on the wooden box. They were very lifelike. She burst out laughing and could not hide her disdain. You were indeed born poor and have not seen much of the world. This plumwood grows very slowly and is always in a place of ice and snow, so it is cool and heavy. It has the effect of calming one's mind. However, once the veins are destroyed and something is randomly carved on it, the spirit within will quickly dissipate. In the end, it will become a piece of rotten wood. This plum wood of yours is completely ruined. Chu Luiyue was criticized by her, but he did not look upset at all. Instead, he laughed. Everyone says that the Lu family is as rich as a country. Miss Lu, you really know a lot. It is indeed easy to damage this plum wood if you carve it rashly. However, if you squeeze the plum blossoms into juice and soak them for a month, there won't be such a problem. Lu Fian stuttered. What? Green plum, juice, soak. Plumwood was already so rare, let alone plum blossoms. Even she had not seen it before. If Miss Lu doesn't believe me, you can take a closer look at the plum blossoms. It is because of the juice that the stamen is green. Lu Fian hurriedly looked down and saw that the plum blossoms were suffused with a faint green color. The fragrance was also exceptionally strong and refreshing. Lu Fian widened her eyes in disbelief. This thing could be considered extremely precious. Just this plumwood box alone was worth 1,000,000 taels of silver. If the plum juice was added, Lu Fian was shocked, but she refused to admit defeat. She could only stubbornly say, I say, you treasure this thing so much. I'm afraid this is your entire fortune. You even brought it with you to the academy. This is the box I used to store the tea. Naturally, I have to bring it. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. Lu Fian choked and then sneered. Tea? What good tea do you have? Chu Luiyue did not have any tea that could match this plumwood box. Chu Luiyue nodded lightly. I really don't have any good tea. I just casually put some flower tea and soak my feet when I have nothing to do. Lu Fian was stunned. It took her a while to react. Her face turned green and white. How interesting. Chu Luiyue actually asked her to bring something to soak her feet. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 98. What was worse was that Chu Luiyue actually used the precious green plumwood box to hold the flower tea. This was simply a waste of God's gift. Lu Fian really wanted to ask Chu Luiyue what he was thinking. But when the words were about to come out of her mouth, she saw Chu Luiyue's calm expression and indifferent tone, as if this was an ordinary matter that was not worth mentioning. In this way, it would seem that she was making a fuss over nothing and had not seen the world. Lu Fian's heart was filled with resentment and her chest felt as if it was blocked by something. She was extremely sullen. She was the dignified eldest daughter of the Lu family. When did she have to serve people like this? Once she thought that the thing in her hand was used by Chu Luiyue to soak her feet, she was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. Who wants to give you this lousy thing? Lu Fian scolded and was about to throw the wooden box away. Eldest Miss Lu, please be careful. Although this thing is not very expensive, if it is broken, I may have to trouble eldest Miss Lu to compensate. Chu Luiyue's expression was gentle and polite as he gently pressed his hand on the wooden box. Lu Fian only felt a heavy pressure coming over her and instantly suppressed her, making her unable to move. She was shocked. When did Chu Luiyue become so powerful? Moreover, if he really wanted to compensate, she would definitely not be able to take out so much money herself. After a long struggle in her heart, Lu Fian finally released her strength and said with gritted teeth, I know. Isn't it just a green plumwood box? What is there to be proud of? Boos came from the crowd. Lu Fian's words were really too sour. When she wore the green plumwood bracelet, her chin was raised to the sky. Moreover, this Chu Luiyue was only used to hold flower tea. How could this be compared? Chu Luiyue curved his eyes in satisfaction. Eldest Miss Lu is really a tactful person. After saying that, Chu Luiyue took out something from the carriage. Rainbow glass cup. This thing is very brittle. If the temperature is too high or too low, it will explode. Please hold it carefully. Purple jade fan. It's the middle of summer now, and the weather is very hot. It's good for fanning. Oh, this inkstone is made of gold thread. You can't touch it directly with your hands. You have to use a silver thread pad to hold it. Chu Luiyue explained the details to them as he took them. The originally arrogant Lu Fian and the others were gradually dumbfounded. These things could be said to be priceless. There were even some that they had only heard of but had never seen before. Looking at those things, Lu Fian, who was originally filled with resentment and unwillingness, became even more unsightly. She had originally thought that the green plumwood box was the only thing Chu Luiyue could bring out, but now it seemed that this was clearly not the case. Lu Fian recalled how she had mocked Chu Luiyue, saying that she came from a poor family. She felt suffocated and her face was burning. How he wished he could find a hole to crawl into right now. Even a fool could tell who was the one who hadn't seen the world. If Lu Fian was like this, there was no need to mention the others. The few women were already stunned. They held the things in their hands stiffly and didn't dare to move, for fear that they would accidentally damage the things. They couldn't afford to pay for it. The surrounding crowd, who had been waiting to watch a show, was also stunned. This Chu Luiyue, wasn't she too generous? Didn't they say that she and Chu Ning had completely severed ties with the Chu family? Logically speaking, their lives should be quite tense, but now, it seemed that they were better off than most of the aristocratic family's descendants. Even Baichen couldn't help but take a few glances at those things. He smacked his lips. I really couldn't tell that little Lu Yu had so many good things. These weren't things that could be obtained with money. Some treasures were things that even he didn't have the means to obtain. Chu Luiyue smiled but didn't say anything. How could the original Chu Luiyue have these things? Even the Chu family might not be able to afford such things. These were actually things that she had picked out from the boxes that Second Master Yen had sent over. Just these alone had already attracted the attention of many people. If they knew that she had even more at home and these weren't even 1/10 of what she had brought over, what would their expressions be? At first, she was already very surprised when she saw that Second Master Yen had sent over so many boxes of gifts. She didn't expect an even bigger surprise to await her after she opened them. Every single item inside was an extremely precious treasure. The so-called treasures in Jinbao Pavilion couldn't compare to these at all. Chu Luyue couldn't help but re-evaluate Jinbao Pavilion's wealth and background. It had been a few days since the incident with the fourth princess, but there had been no news of His Majesty punishing Jinbao Pavilion. She could already guess many things from these incidents. Jinbao Pavilion was even more mysterious than she had imagined. In her previous life, as the Heavenly Princess, she had seen and used the best things. The value of these things wasn't enough to shock her. But these things, from the teacup to the writing brush in ink, even the flower tea in the green plum wood box, she liked them all. Everything was just right. She liked them all. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 99. Without a doubt, these were the handiwork of the mysterious head of Treasure Pavilion. Chu Luyue became increasingly curious. She wondered who this person was and why he did so many things for her. This was definitely not something that could be exchanged for a hunting grounds title deed. She had previously probed Yen Gu to meet the head of Treasure Pavilion, but Yen Gu tactfully declined. He said that the head of Treasure Pavilion was rarely in the Imperial capital, and it was difficult even for him to meet him. If Chu Luyue really wanted to meet him, she would have to wait. Chu Luyue was rather open-minded. Since the other party had sent these treasures over, she would just take them. When the other party wanted to meet her, she would naturally meet him. At that time, they could talk about other things. Moreover, she liked these things a lot. It would be a waste not to take them. Baichen glanced at the deflated Lu Fian and the others and laughed loudly. Let's go. I'll take you to see your residence now. Chu Luyue followed Baichen into the academy. Lu Fian and the others followed behind with the items, looking like her servants. Their group attracted a lot of attention along the way. Although many people had seen Chu Luyue when she participated in the midterm examination, most of them were from the same batch. The students from the two batches before her were also very familiar with Chu Luyue's name. Now that she had finally arrived, they naturally wanted to take a closer look and see what kind of person she was. However, with Baichen around, no one tactfully came up to find trouble. After entering the academy, Chu Luyue quickly saw many houses. These houses were all standalone courtyards, and they were separated by a certain distance from each other. The academy occupies a large area, and there aren't many students, so every student has their own house. This way, even if they don't attend classes on weekdays, they can cultivate in peace in their own place. Baichen explained to Chu Luyue as he walked. Although the arena and library are shared in the academy, the territories of martial artists, Xian cultivators, and celestial physician are separated due to different cultivation methods. The area we just passed is the territory of martial artists. After crossing this Shuangqing River, it will be the territory of us mystic cultivators. Chu Luyue looked ahead and saw a clear river meandering past with a 7-hole stone bridge over it. On the other side of the river, there were also some individual courtyards, but they were obviously much larger than the ones he had seen earlier. Looks like the students' residences are different, Chu Luyue muttered. Hee, of course. The conditions of us Xian masters are much better than those of martial artists. Baichen smiled proudly. This courtyard is at least twice as big as the one over there. Chu Luyue nodded in understanding. On the one hand, there were very few mystic cultivators, and on the other hand, mystic cultivators had a higher status than martial artists, so it was normal for there to be such a difference. Yes, that courtyard is your residence. Bai-Chen pointed at a courtyard by the river in the distance. That location is very close to Joyo Tower and the library. It's very convenient. Chu Luiyue felt warmth in his heart. Thank you, Teacher Bai-Chen. You don't have to thank me. Elder's son specially instructed me to do this. It's rare for you to be so talented as a martial artist and a mystic cultivator, so it's normal for you to receive such treatment. After all, the teachers also hope that you can become truly powerful. Bai Chen's expression became much more serious. Chu Luiyue could tell that he meant what he said. Although Bai Chen had a bad temper, he didn't have any bad intentions. As a teacher, he also did his job well. After arriving at the courtyard, Chu Luiyue could tell at a glance that this place had been meticulously cleaned, so he was naturally even more satisfied. Lu Fian and the others felt even more uncomfortable when they saw this. They put down their things and left angrily. Chu Luiyue didn't mind. She didn't need to worry about these people. Bai Chen then told her some things to take note of, and Chu Luiyue noted them down one by one. This is your nameplate and uniform. When you're done tidying up here, make a trip to Peach Garden when you're free. That's where the teachers usually handle their daily affairs. Although you've already chosen to cultivate as a mystic cultivator, you haven't chosen a teacher yet. Once you've made your choice, go to Peach Garden to become a disciple and register. Then, you can officially start cultivating. Chu Luiyue thought for a moment and still asked. Teacher Bai Chen, do I have to choose this teacher? Digression, actually, I don't know when it will be published in February. **** mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from LoveNet. Chapter 100. Bai Chen looked at her strangely. Of course. Since you've entered the academy to cultivate, how can you not have a teacher? Especially Xian masters, you need a teacher's careful guidance. Otherwise, you will definitely take many detours. Why, you don't want to choose a teacher? Chu Luiyue wanted to say something but hesitated. Seeing his surprised expression, she shook her head with a smile. That's not it. Lu Yu was just asking casually. There are many teachers in the academy, but I just came and don't know much about them, so I haven't thought about it yet. Bai Chen didn't suspect anything and laughed. I see. Actually, you don't have to be so conflicted. It won't be too late to make a choice after you reach Peach Garden and meet all the teachers. Chu Luiyue heaved a sigh of relief. Then Lu Yu can be at ease. Bai Chen winked. Actually, when you enter the academy, most students are like you and don't know much about the teachers. However, they don't have as much choice as you do. Your midterm assessment results were first in the warrior assessment and second in the Xian master assessment. Now, all the teachers want to take you in as a disciple. It's all up to you. This kind of treatment isn't something that everyone can get. Only a rare genius like Chu Luiyue could make those fellows restless. Okay. Then I'll pack up and go later. Chu Luiyue's courtyard was a small two-story building. It was clean and tidy. She looked around and realized that everything she needed was already prepared. There was no need for her to bring anything. However, she still put away the things she brought and changed into the academy uniform. She pinned a nameplate on her left chest before leaving for Peach Garden. Bai Chen had already told her how to get to Peach Garden, so Chu Luiyue had a smooth journey. From afar, Chu Luiyue saw a simple and spacious courtyard. Just as she stood in front of the door, Chu Luiyue felt a heavy pressure coming at her. She narrowed her eyes, but she didn't move. She just stood there. Whoosh! Just as that biting cold aura was about to reach her, it suddenly dissipated. The wind ruffled the hair on her forehead. Chu Liuyue's expression did not change. He cupped his fists and saluted. Student Chu Liuyue greets teachers. A moment later, a warm laugh was heard. I already said that this girl is really capable, yet you still insist on personally trying. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by this girl? It was Sun Zhongyan's voice. Girl, come in. As soon as she finished speaking, the invisible force in front of Chu Liuyue completely dissipated with the wind, and she stepped in. Contrary to its name, there were no trees or flowers in the peach garden. There were only some rough stones that were placed messily. However, Chu Liuyue could tell at a glance that these stones were arranged into a special Xian formation. With this place as the center, the power of the Xian formation spread out in all directions. Once activated, the power of this Xian formation could not be underestimated. Chu Liuyue quickly retracted his gaze. Sun Zhongyan was sitting on a stone bench in the courtyard, playing chess. When he saw her, he put down the chess piece in his hand. Chu Liuyue noticed that the chessboard was exactly the same as the one she used to take the Tianlu Academy exam. However, the chessboard today was filled with scattered chess pieces. It was obviously many times more complicated than the one she used to play that day. Girl, have you chosen your teacher? Chu Liuyue hesitated for a moment and shook her head. Teacher Bai Chen asked me to visit all the teachers first. As she spoke, she looked around and realized that there was no one else in the courtyard other than Elder Sunday. There were a few rather obscure auras in the room. Elder Sun, the other teachers, Chu Liuyue did not understand. Sun Zhongyan pointed at the chessboard. Everyone wanted to be your teacher, so we had a competition. Now, they have all lost. I'm the only one left. He smiled at Chu Liuyue. What do you think of me being your teacher? Chu Liuyue was stunned. If she remembered correctly, Elder Sun seemed to be Si Ting's teacher too. Just as she was hesitating, a gray figure suddenly rushed over from afar. A deep voice exploded in the sky above the peach garden like thunder. I don't agree. Digression, Elder Yi expressed his disapproval. Today at 5:00 p.m., please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 101. This voice sounded a little familiar. Chu Liuyue was thinking when she saw that figure rushing in front of Sun Zhongyan. His figure was a little stooped, and he was wearing a tattered cotton shirt. Who else could it be but Elder Yi? But why was he here? Sun Zhongyan was even more shocked than Chu Liuyue. Uncle Master. Why are you here? Uncle Master. Chu Liuyue was a little surprised. She had long guessed that Elder Ye's identity was not ordinary, but she did not expect him to be Sun Zhongyan's Uncle Master. Wasn't his seniority a little too high? Elder Yi panted and stared at Sun Zhongyan with wide eyes. Sun Zhongyan felt a little guilty under his gaze. Uncle Master, what's wrong? What's wrong? You still dare to ask me what's wrong? As Elder Yi spoke, he actually slapped him. You brat, how dare you snatch someone from your Uncle Master? You've grown bold. Sun Zhongyan did not dare to retaliate and could only cover his head. Uncle Master. Uncle Master. Why are you hitting me? Even if I ate a bear's heart and leopard's gall, I wouldn't dare to snatch someone from you. Seeing Sun Zhongyan, who was highly respected in the academy, being chased and beaten up, Chu Liuyue's mood suddenly became a little strange. She coughed and looked away. Uncle Master, if you want to hit me, you have to tell me clearly. Who exactly did I snatch from you? Sun Zhongyan shouted aggrievedly. Uncle Master did not show up all year round. Why did he hit people the moment he came? Elder Yi finally stopped and pointed at Chu Liuyue with a huff. Her. The courtyard fell silent for a moment. Chu Luyue keenly sensed that the concealed auras that were previously hidden fluctuated at almost the same time. Clearly, everyone was a little shocked by Elder Ye's words. Sun Zhongyan was stunned for a while. This Uncle Master, you want to take Chu Luyue in as your disciple. But, you're a celestial physician. Chu Luyue's talent as a warrior and a Xian master was indeed indisputable, but as a celestial physician, she did not seem to be satisfactory. Sun Zhongyan glanced at Chu Luyue and could not help but persuade her. Uncle Master, did you hear that this girl entered the academy because she passed all 3 examinations? You may not be aware, but she is much more than a celestial physician and you. For this reason, why hadn't Martial Uncle accepted a single disciple for so many years? There. What do you know? Mr. Yi interrupted him impatiently. Chu Luyue sighed in her heart. She had wanted to choose a teacher in a low-key manner and begin her cultivation in the academy. Now, it seemed impossible. She did not expect Elder Yi to have such a relationship with Tianlu Academy. Moreover, he had rushed out at this time. This girl has been my disciple for a long time. You want to snatch her away now? Dream on. Elder Yi was still brooding. He looked at Sun Zhongyan as if he was looking at a thief. He walked to Chu Luyue. Girl, these old fogies are all very bad. You can't be fooled by them. Chu Luyue was speechless. Is it okay for you to be so direct? Elder Yi looked aggrieved as he spoke. Girl, why didn't you tell me you were coming to the academy? Do you really want to find someone else to be your master? Chu Luyue smiled helplessly. Master, you misunderstood. I was in seclusion for a few days. I went to the Chu family to look for you as soon as I came out. Who knew that I could not find you? I asked around and found out that such a big thing had happened. If I had been a little later, wouldn't you have become this bastard's disciple? Sun Zhongyan, who was being scolded, did not care about being aggrieved or defending himself. The conversation between Elder Yi and Chu Luyue contained too much information, and he could not react in time. Chu Luyue paused and did not say anything. If she had known that Elder Yi was from Tianlu Academy, she would not have gone through so much trouble. However, when she thought about how Elder Yi had hurriedly looked for her, she was not completely unaffected. Elder Yi looked at the girl in front of him. Actually, he did not have enough time to dote on her. How could he bear to scold her? His voice softened as he patted Chu Luyue's arm. Luckily, I came quickly. You can't do this in the future. Chu Luyue responded with a bright smile. Yes, master. While the master and disciple were overjoyed, Sun Zhongyan and the other teachers in the room were all dumbfounded. Seeing that Elder Yi was about to take her away, Sun Zhongyan finally could not help but step forward and ask, Elder Yi, you really accepted this girl as your disciple? Elder Yi glanced at him. Didn't you hear her call me master? Sun Zhongyan choked. But her talent, As Elder Yi spoke, Chu Luyue gently tugged at the corner of his shirt. Elder Ye's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at Chu Luyue and guessed what she was thinking. It seemed like this girl did not want to expose herself. That's right. If she really exposed everything, it would be too eye-catching. Elder Yi coughed. Anyway, she passed the Celestial Physician exam, and we hit it off very well. We have already gone through the ceremony. Whatever you say is useless. He looked like he had made up his mind. Sun Zhongyan felt that it was a pity. Chu Luyue did not have any potential as a celestial physician. Even if she became his disciple, her future was bleak. Master, I'm actually very interested in Xian formations. I came to the academy this time to learn a thing or two. Chu Luyue's words worried Elder Yi. You really want to be this brat's disciple? Chu Luiyue held back her laughter and shook her head. Since I already have a master, it's naturally not good for me to take someone else as my master. This disciple wants to cultivate as a Xian master on her own. Can you agree? On your own. Sun Zhongyan felt that this was unacceptable. Girl, you have to think carefully. If you don't have a teacher to guide you seriously, the path of a Xian master won't be easy. Chu Luiyue nodded insistently. Thank you, elder son, but I've already made up my mind. Master, you don't have any objections, right? Elder Yi wanted to say something but stopped. Actually, he had already vaguely guessed that perhaps Chu Luiyue really did not need a Xian master teacher. Just like her cultivation as a celestial physician, her realm was unfathomable, and she was more than qualified to be his teacher. Why would master stop you from doing whatever you want to do? This matter is settled. Elder Yi waved his hand. Bring me the registration list. Very quickly, someone walked out of the room and brought a thick booklet. A few words were written in gold on the cover, Tianlu Academy. Elder Yi placed his hand on the booklet and released it. The pages actually flipped by themselves. Chu Luiyue stood at the side and could clearly see the names written on the pages. The students' names were all black, and the teachers' names were all red. The booklet flipped to the latest blank page and finally stopped. Elder Ye's expression froze. He stretched out his finger and wrote down a name on the page. Yi Zhiding. A dazzling golden glow shone brightly. His name was actually golden. Very quickly, Chu Luiyue saw a line of words appear below his name. Tianlu Academy's 65th Director. Digression, today, Mujiagang mobile phone users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 102. Elder Yi is the Dean of Tianlu Academy. Chu Luiyue looked at him in shock. This old man always wore torn cotton clothes and did not care about his appearance. If she did not see him with her own eyes, she would not have believed his true identity. Chu Luiyue could not help but recall the previous few times they met. Elder Yi had shamelessly chased after her to watch her refine demons. Her feelings became even more complicated. After all this time, the person with the most authority in Tianlu Academy was right in front of her. Elder Ye's expression was serious, which was rare for him. His fingers continued moving. Another name appeared on the page of the book. Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue realized that her name was actually red. It was the same color as the teachers in the academy. Then, a small line of words appeared below her name. Cultivation, Celestial Physician, Xian Master, Martial Artist. Due to the limitations of their talents, normal students would only cultivate one skill. However, Chu Luiyue was different. Elder Yi knew that her talents might be stronger than he had imagined. Thus, he simply wrote down all 3 skills for her. This would be much more convenient in the future. When he wrote down the last word, a golden ray of light flew out from Elder Ye's name and entered Chu Luiyue's nameplate on her left chest. Every student's nameplate has a trace of their teacher's power. Not only can it be used to identify one's identity, but it can also be used as a trump card in times of danger. Elder Yi explained as he let go of his hand. The page slowly closed on its own and returned to the teacher who had sent the book over. All right. Your name has been registered. From now on, you will be my true disciple. Elder Yi looked at Chu Luiyue emotionally. He could not hide the excitement in his heart. Even though Chu Luiyue had already served him tea previously, only the 2 of them knew about it at that time. Now that both of their names were written on the academy's nameplate, it would be very different. In the future, everyone would know that Chu Luiyue was his disciple. Thinking of this, Elder Yi was elated. He had lived for most of his life. Many people had advised him to take in disciples, but he had rejected them all because he found it troublesome. Now, there was finally someone who caught his eye, and he was even a genius that was hard to come by in 100 years. All of a sudden, he had surpassed everyone else. How could he not be happy? Let's go. We haven't seen each other for such a long time. I have many things to say to you. After finishing his business, Mr. Yi left with Chu Luyue, leaving Sun Zhongyan and the others looking at each other. The peach garden was silent for a long time before a helpless laugh could be heard. To think that we've been fighting for so long. In the end, he's already the dean's student. Yi Lao originally wanted to bring Chu Luyue to his place, but he suddenly remembered that he had been away for a long time and that his place might not have been cleaned yet. In the end, he followed Chu Luyue back. Fortunately, at this time, most of the students in the academy had already started their classes or cultivation. On their way back, they didn't meet anyone. As soon as they entered the room, Mr. Yi immediately asked, "Little girl, why didn't you tell me earlier that you wanted to come to the academy? She even had to go through so much trouble to take 3 exams. I heard that you also participated in the midterm assessment a few days ago. Did someone make things difficult for you? Don't hesitate to tell me. I'll definitely help you vent your anger." Chu Luyue poured him a cup of tea leisurely as she poured him a cup of tea. "Speak slowly. There's no need to rush." Mr. Yi stopped drinking tea and finally had some time to rest. Chu Luyue briefly told him what happened during this period of time. Mr. Yi had heard some rumors before, but after listening to Chu Luyue, he finally understood what happened. So many things happened during this period of time. "Little girl, didn't you say that if you ran into any trouble, you could just come to me? As your master, I couldn't help you at all." Mr. Yi was filled with guilt. In his view, Chu Luyue was still a child. Who knew how many difficulties she had to go against the Chu clan and the crown prince? However, Chu Luyue smiled nonchalantly and teased him. "At that time, I didn't know your true identity. If I knew, how could I not come to you?" This sentence made Mr. Yi even more embarrassed. "It was my negligence." He had a carefree personality and never liked to deal with the school's affairs. He usually left it to Sun Zhongyan and the others. Although he was the dean in name, he had been running around outside all these years. There weren't many people who actually saw him. He often forgot his identity. "However, you don't have to worry. Isn't everything fine now?" Chu Luyue comforted. Mr. Yi restrained his expression and shook his head. "Little girl, you might not know this, but the crown prince is narrow-minded and haggles over every detail. Now that you've humiliated him, he definitely won't let it go." Buzz. Before Mr. Yi could finish speaking, a buzzing sound came from outside. The two of them looked outside together but didn't see anything. However, Mr. Yi's expression didn't relax. Instead, his frown deepened. He immediately stood up. "Little girl, I have something to do and will leave first. I'll come to see you another day." With that, his feet moved, and his figure quickly disappeared. Chu Luyue looked in the direction he left and shifted her gaze. Not far away, the majestic Joyo Tower stood quietly. That strange movement just now seemed to be coming from there. However, that movement was very weak. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect it. She could sense it because she was very sensitive to the changes in heaven and earth force. Although she hadn't regained the strength of her previous life, her senses were still there. If she remembered correctly, Tianlu Academy seemed to be under Joyo Tower. Knock, knock, knock. A knock on the door interrupted Chu Luyue's thoughts. "Who is it?" she asked as she went to open the door. A familiar face appeared outside the door. Chu Luyue was a little surprised. "Si Ting. Why are you here?" Si Ting didn't seem to expect her to come so quickly. He was stunned for a moment but quickly recovered. "You've already chosen your teacher. Chu Luiyue nodded. Si Ting paused but didn't ask her who she had chosen. There's a meditation class this morning. Mr. Dongfang asked me to come and see if you're ready. Meditation class. Chu Luiyue was a little confused. Si Ting explained. Although most of the Xian master's cultivation is done independently, there are common classes. This class is taught by Mr. Dongfang. Chu Luiyue then understood that Si Ting was here to ask her to go to class. She sized him up and couldn't help but tease him. Mr. Dongfang actually sent you over for such a small matter. Si Ting averted his gaze, his handsome face still expressionless. It's just that I solved the first round first, so I had time to come. If you're ready, come with me. Chu Luiyue didn't ask much and followed him to class. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 103. The meditation class was held at the Autumn Frost Garden. Chu Luiyue followed Si Ting and soon arrived at their destination. Standing outside the door, Si Ting said in a low voice, meditation classes are usually used to cultivate one's control of the heaven and earth force. Chu Luiyue nodded. A Xian master's cultivation was limited to these few aspects. The two of them had just reached the door when it opened automatically. A deep middle-aged man's voice sounded. Come in. Chu Luiyue followed Si Ting and entered. It was a very spacious room, and a square-faced man was standing at the front. Greetings, Teacher Dongfang, Si Ting said. Chu Luiyue immediately understood that this person was the meditation class's teacher, Dongfang Qing. You guys came quickly. Dongfang Qing nodded and his gaze quickly landed on Chu Luiyue with curiosity. You are Chu Luiyue. Chu Luiyue bowed. Greetings, Teacher Dongfang. Dongfang Qing's gaze lingered on her nameplate for a moment. He actually wanted to ask her who her teacher was, but with so many students around, it was not appropriate for him to ask. He raised his hand and pointed. You can sit next to Si Ting first. Chu Luiyue looked in the direction he was pointing. There were dozens of stone tables in the room, and a student was sitting on each of them. There was a chessboard on the table in front of each of them. Almost all of the students were staring at the chessboard seriously, thinking hard. Even when they heard the two of them enter, they only looked up and quickly lowered their heads to continue studying the Xian array on the chessboard. The two tables in the middle were empty. Obviously, one belonged to Si Ting and the other to her. When she walked closer, she saw a clear 2 carved on the table. She looked sideways and saw the 1 carved on Si Ting's table. It seemed like it was arranged according to the midterm assessment ranking. Chu Luiyue had just stepped onto the stone table when a chessboard suddenly appeared on the originally empty table in front of her. There was a Xian array on the chessboard. Today's lesson is very simple. As long as you can find the formation cores of these two Xian formations, you will pass. Dongfang Qing looked at Chu Luiyue with anticipation. The 3 people who spend the shortest amount of time will be rewarded. He wasn't there during the midterm assessment that day, so he didn't know what exactly happened and how Chu Luiyue obtained second place in the Xian cultivator competition. Old Master's son and the others were exaggerating. They even said that Chu Luiyue was as talented as Si Ting. He wanted to see if that was the case. Chu Luiyue looked down at the Xian formation in front of him. This level of Xian formation posed no difficulty to her. The moment she saw it, she immediately thought of a way to break it. But of course, he couldn't pass it so quickly. Sensing Dongfang Qing's gaze on him, Chu Luiyue knew that he was testing him. She looked at Si Ting and asked in a low voice, sighing. How long did you take for the first round? Dongfang Qing's eyes lit up. Chu Luiyue wanted to challenge Si Ting. Si Ting looked at the calm expression on the girl's face and guessed what she was thinking. 1 hour. Chu Luiyue nodded thoughtfully. Based on Si Ting's age, it was already very good that he could reach this standard. Then try to be faster for the second round. I might be able to surpass you. Chu Luiyue blinked. If Si Ting could pass it faster, she would waste less time. Otherwise, it would be difficult to endure the few hours here. Si Ting looked at the sly look in her eyes and nodded after a moment of silence. Okay. Why, Chu Luiyue, are you challenging Si Ting? A girl's voice suddenly sounded from behind. Chu Luiyue turned around and saw that the person who spoke was a girl who looked about 15 or 16 years old. She looked beautiful, and her phoenix eyes were filled with undisguised pride and hostility as she looked at Chu Luiyue. Hostility. Chu Luiyue frowned slightly. She did not know this girl. Why was she treating her like this? Gu Mingzhu, why are you so nosy? It's normal that Lu Yu wants to challenge my brother. After all, he came in second place. How can you, who came in fourth place, have the right to speak? Si Yang, who was sitting behind Chu Luiyue, said impatiently. Hearing this name, Chu Luiyue immediately knew who this girl was. She was the second daughter of the Gu family, Gu Mingzhu. Because she was the daughter of the first wife and was a Xian master, she was very favored in the Gu family. Gu Mingzhu's face turned cold after being rebuked by Si Yang. I'm just asking. Why are you so protective of her? Si Yang snorted. You know very well what you are thinking. If you want to challenge my brother, wait until you come in second place. Gu Mingzhu was so angry that her face turned pale. She gritted her teeth and said, who knows how she came in second place? What can someone who became a Xian master be capable of? The cultivation of a Xian master was very particular. Even if one had good talent, without the correct and patient guidance of a teacher, one would not be able to achieve anything. Chu Luiyue had been living a life worse than a servant in the Chu family for the past few years. Now that she was in her teens, her talent as a Xian master was discovered. It was too late. The results from last time must be a coincidence. Si Yang's tone was a little harsh. Why? Are you suspecting that elder son and the rest made a mistake? He came in third place. If Gu Mingzhu suspected that Chu Luiyue came in second place, wouldn't that mean that he was not capable enough? Gu Mingzhu did not dare to say anything else. This Si Yang had always been the most mischievous. She could not be bothered to argue with him. Gu Mingzhu looked at Si Ting, feeling wronged. However, the handsome young man did not even look at her. It was as if he did not care about what had just happened. Gu Mingzhu bit her lip. She felt even worse. Si Ting was a quiet and introverted person with an indifferent personality. She thought that he had always been like that. Therefore, even though she had been rejected time and time again, she still had a glimmer of hope. However, Chu Luiyue's appearance made her feel threatened. Since when had Si Ting ever cared about anyone else? However, when teacher Dongfang mentioned that he wanted to send someone to bring Chu Luiyue over, Si Ting actually took the initiative to speak up. Although Si Ting said that he had time to go because he had solved the first round, Gu Mingzhu did not think that way. When Chu Luiyue spoke to Si Ting just now, she could clearly feel that Si Ting's attitude towards her was different. This was a woman's intuition. Therefore, this made Gu Mingzhu dislike Chu Luiyue even more. She placed one hand on the chessboard. Because she was using too much force, her knuckles turned pale. Chu Luiyue, do you dare to compete with me? If you lose, you have to give up your second place to me. If I lose, I will give you the dragon string array. How about that? The surrounding people were all shocked and raised their heads to look over. The dragon string array was a legendary 5th-level Xian array. Gu Mingzhu was indeed the second young mistress of the Gu family. She was so generous. No one would reject such a prize. However, unexpectedly, Chu Luiyue did not look excited at all. Instead, he shook his head and smiled kindly. Let's not. After all, I really don't like to bully others. Chapter 104. How could Gu Mingzhu not understand what Chu Luiyue meant? He was obviously looking down on her. She was so angry that she laughed. Chu Luiyue, don't tell me you're scared. Chu Luiyue shrugged. If you think so, then so be it. Gu Mingzhu choked. She did not expect Chu Luiyue to be so stubborn. She raised her voice in defiance. Then I'll add a Greenwood Xian formation. Do you agree or not? The room was in an uproar. Greenwood Xian formation. That was a Xian formation that would not lose to the dragon string formation. Gu Mingzhu was willing to take out 2 level 5 Xian formations just to compete with Chu Luiyue. She was really putting in a lot of effort. Chu Luiyue finally turned around and looked at her lazily. Really? I'm the second lady of the Gu family. Of course I'm serious. Gu Mingzhu raised her chin. Chu Luiyue nodded. Okay. She was not a fool. Why would she not take advantage of the other party's initiative? Gu Mingzhu was delighted when she saw that Chu Luiyue had finally agreed. However, she was immediately disdainful. She sneered. Looks like you didn't agree just now because the stakes were too small. In other words, Chu Luiyue was obviously greedy for money. Chu Luiyue smiled and admitted it. It's good that you know. If you want to ask someone to teach you, you should at least show some sincerity. Otherwise, she really did not want to waste her time on this kind of person. You! Gu Mingzhu was so angry that she was about to explode. However, she suddenly felt someone looking at her. It was Si Ting. Gu Mingzhu suppressed the anger in her heart and returned to her usual cold and arrogant attitude. Then let's use the 2 Xian formations that Mr. Dongfang set up as a competition. Whoever solves them first will win. Gu Mingzhu, how dare you say that? You've been here for almost 2 hours. Chu Luiyue just arrived. Aren't you bullying him? Si Yang could not stand it anymore. Gu Mingzhu looked at Chu Luiyue and sneered. Unraveling a profound formation can easily take several hours. Sometimes, it can take a whole day to unravel it. Chu Luiyue was late because of himself. Can you blame me? What's more, she had gotten second place previously. She wouldn't be so calculative about this little bit of time, right? Chu Luiyue, what do you think? Chu Luiyue waved his hand carelessly. I'll let you. His casual attitude annoyed Gu Mingzhu once again. Let's start. After she finished speaking, she lowered her head and once again focused on studying the profound formation on the chessboard in front of her. This time, she must win. Chu Luiyue retracted his gaze and looked at Si Ting. Si Ting felt inexplicably nervous when he saw her. Chu Luiyue smirked. This trouble was obviously caused by Si Ting. However, on account of how Si Ting had helped her before, she did not want to be calculative about this. Si Ting was the first to look away. Chu Luiyue raised his brows and looked at the profound formation in front of him. Imperial Palace, Imperial Study. Emperor Jiawen leaned against the chair and looked at Rong Jin, who was standing with his hands by his side, expressionlessly. I'll say it one last time. Let's forget about this matter. Don't pursue it anymore. A deep and heavy voice sounded in the empty study room, with the dignity and majesty of a person in a high position. Rong Jin clenched his fists in his sleeves. In actual fact, he had already thought of this answer before he came. However, he really did not understand. Father, Zhenzhen's injury is really strange. I've always been the one managing the hunting ground, and such a situation has never happened before. Why did something like this happen once Jinbao Pavilion took over? If we don't investigate carefully, how can Jinjin be at peace? Emperor Jiawen looked at him solemnly. Crown Prince, are you blaming me? Rong Jin's heart tightened, and he immediately knelt down. I don't dare. Jinbao Pavilion tried to stop her multiple times, but Jinjin insisted on going in to hunt high-level fiends. She can only blame herself for this. At the end of the day, I've spoiled her too much. All these years, I've always let her do whatever she wants, and I've never punished her. This is what led to today's situation. Emperor Jiawen sighed deeply and closed his eyes. How can my heart not hurt when her pearl of essence is broken? I've already sent Chu Ning to lead the Imperial guards to search for the high-level fiend that injured Jinjin. The few people who followed Jinjin and didn't protect her that day have been punished. What else do you want to investigate? The last sentence made Rong Jin's heart skip a beat. Even though Emperor Jiawen wasn't looking at him, he felt that his thoughts had been seen through. I just feel that, I've already told you not to have any ideas about Jinbao Pavilion the last time, but it seems like you didn't listen at all. Emperor Jiawen opened his eyes tiredly and spoke slowly. Do you want to investigate for Jinjin or, do you want to investigate for yourself? Father. Rong Jin was shocked and instantly felt that Emperor Jiawen's eyes were glaring at him like a will-o'-the-wisp, making him tremble in fear. Father, you're wise. I don't have any selfish motives. Emperor Jiawen was unmoved. He knew exactly what Rong Jin was thinking and doing. The father-son duo, one sitting and one kneeling, were in a stalemate. The atmosphere in the room gradually became cold and stiff. After a while, Rong Jin finally lowered his head. Father, I just want an answer. What kind of background does Jinbao Pavilion have? Even you are so protective of it. I put in so much effort for that hunting ground, but it was snatched away by them in the blink of an eye. I really can't take it lying down. You're the crown prince. How can a mere hunting ground make you like this? Actually, you care more about your pride as the crown prince, right? Emperor Jiawen's words hit the nail on the head, and it made Rong Jin's face turn pale. If they didn't help Chu Luiyue, I wouldn't. You were the one who wanted to cancel the marriage agreement. Emperor Jiawen shook his head. He knew that Rong Jin wasn't broad-minded enough, but the recent events really disappointed him. If Chu Luiyue had displayed his shocking talent back then, the situation today would have been very different. You can go back. Emperor Jiawen waved his hands. Rong Jin wanted to say more, but he swallowed his words when he saw Emperor Jiawen's expression. Yes. He stood up and left. Just as he reached the door, Emperor Jiawen's voice sounded from behind him. I heard that Chu Xianmin from the Chu family hurt her face a few days ago. Go and take a look if you have the time. Rong Jin turned around, and an ominous feeling surfaced in his heart. Rumors are spreading like wildfire in the Imperial city. Given the current situation, you should accept her as soon as possible. Father, Chu Xianmin and I don't. As the crown prince, you should think about what you should do. Yes. Rong Jin returned to Crown Prince Mansion without saying a word, but his face was frighteningly cold. Song Yuan, who had been waiting for a long time, felt his heart skip a beat. He thought to himself that something was amiss and looked down in panic. Rong Jin stood still in front of Song Yuan. Go and tell the Chu family to prepare. I'll accept Chu Xianmin into the mansion in a few days. Song Yuan was dazed. Your Highness, is that a secondary consort's gift? Rong Jin sneered. Secondary consort? Does she even deserve it? Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 105. 3 days later, Crown Prince Mansion will welcome her as a concubine. Song Yuan asked hesitantly. Your Highness, third Chu Missy is the Chu family's legitimate daughter after all. Isn't it inappropriate for her to be a concubine? That's already giving her too much credit. Rong Jin's expression was cold. There was no affection in his eyes at the mention of Chu Xianmin. This series of events had already caused him to lose all face. It was already a huge favor that he was still willing to give Chu Xianmin a place in Crown Prince Mansion. Song Yuan looked at Rong Jin's expression and knew that the matter was settled. There was no turning back, so he did not say anything else. Yes. Rong Jin heaved a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to walk in, he saw that Song Yuan was still standing at the same spot with a strange expression. He could not help but frown. Why are you still standing there? Song Yuan bowed and whispered, Your Highness, Your Highness. The people we sent to investigate Jinbao Pavilion are gone. Rong Jin was shocked, and his frown deepened. How is that possible? Those people were all stage 4 warriors. He knew that Jinbao Pavilion was not to be trifled with, so he did not hold back. Who would have thought, Your Highness, those people were just secretly investigating Jinbao Pavilion, and they were assassinated one after another. The assassins were very strong and did not leave any traces behind. We can't even find any evidence to prove that they did it. Rong Jin clenched his fists, and his voice was almost squeezed out from between his teeth. You mean to say that this time, this consort can only suffer in silence and swallow this anger? Your Highness, I didn't mean that. Song Yuan hurriedly knelt on the ground. Rong Jin closed his eyes and thought for a long time before he sneered. If we can't do it secretly, then we'll do it openly. Song Yuan was worried. Your Highness, didn't His Majesty say that he won't investigate anymore? If you do it openly, I'm afraid it will be difficult to explain to His Majesty. Of course, I won't get involved in this. However, Jinbao Pavilion has been operating in the Imperial City for many years. Who knows if there are any problems with their private accounts? It just so happens that the people from the Ministry of Personnel Affairs have some free time recently. They can investigate all these in the Imperial City, the Chu family. Chu Yan and Lu Yao stared at Song Yuan with their mouths agape. They couldn't believe their ears. Lord Song, you said earlier that the Crown Prince wants Minmin to enter the residence as a concubine. Song Yuan smiled. Yes. His Highness the Crown Prince has always been fond of third Miss Chu and has long wanted to marry her. Both of you know this. Although time was a little tight, the Crown Prince had said that third Miss Chu's injuries had not yet healed. For the sake of her health, everything should be kept simple. But don't worry, although the rules and etiquette are simple, His Highness will definitely not mistreat third Miss Chu. Chu Yan and Lu Yao trembled in anger. Lord Song, no matter what, my Min Min is still the young miss of the Chu family. Even if she is injured and can't be the official wife, she should at least be the concubine. A mere concubine, isn't that too much? Chu Yan's anger was almost uncontrollable, and his tone was a little harsh. The smile on Song Yuan's face did not change, but it became colder. Lord Chu Yan, don't you know the reason behind this? Third Miss Chu's face was injured, and she might not recover for the rest of her life. The Crown Prince's official wife and concubine will have to go to the royal family's ancestral hall to greet their ancestors. Is it appropriate for third Miss Chu to do this? Besides, not only did third Miss Chu hurt her face, but she also hurt the Crown Prince's reputation. Now that the Crown Prince is willing to give her the status of a concubine, he is already very magnanimous. Both of you should discuss this properly and not spoil the Crown Prince's good intentions. Who could not hear the threat in his words? Chu Yan and Lu Yao looked at each other and felt very aggrieved. They only had one daughter, Chu Xianmin. Originally, they hoped that she would be able to marry the Crown Prince and become the Crown Prince's concubine, but it was obviously impossible now. There was no time to prepare anything in 3 days. It was really embarrassing to marry him like this. Who knew how the people in the Imperial city would laugh at her? I'll marry him. Just as the few of them were in a deadlock, a woman's voice suddenly came from outside the door. It was Chu Xianmin. At this moment, she was wearing a veil that covered most of her hair and face, only revealing a pair of eyes. However, her eyes were no longer proud and arrogant like before. Instead, they had a sinister coldness that made people feel uneasy. Song Yuan muttered in his heart, "This third Miss Chu seems to be different from before." "Minmin. Why did you come out?" Lu Yao hurried over and sized her up worriedly. Just now, you heard everything." Chu Xianmin nodded. "I heard it. I'm willing to marry him." Song Yuan smiled. "Then, third Miss Chu, please prepare at home and enter the residence in 3 days." With that, he did not stay any longer and turned to leave. When Song Yuan's figure disappeared, Chu Yan regained his senses and looked at Chu Xianmin with a complicated gaze. "Minmin, you have to think carefully. You'll be a concubine if you go." Chu Xianmin laughed at herself. "What can I do now that I'm like this?" The few of them fell silent. The Crown Prince mansion doesn't have a consort or a secondary consort. There are only a few concubines. I won't be bullied if I go. Besides, I don't intend to be a concubine for the rest of my life. Lu Yao's eyes lit up. "Minmin, you mean, although my looks are disfigured, I still have my talent and abilities. Besides, I can borrow the Crown Prince's power if I become his woman. I haven't forgotten who caused me to become like this. Chu Luyue, let's settle our scores bit by bit." Meditation class. The room was very quiet. Everyone was focused on studying the chessboard in front of them. Caw! A crisp sound was heard. Gu Mingzhu had solved the first Xian formation. Dong Fangqing glanced at her and was surprised. He did not expect Gu Mingzhu to solve the first Xian formation after Si Ting. When Si Yang heard the sound, he could not help but turn around and look. He felt even more frustrated. Gu Mingzhu raised her chin proudly and looked at Chu Luyue in front of her. Such a simple Xian formation is just a piece of cake. Chu Luyue heard her and turned to look at her. You solved the first Xian formation. Why, are you surprised? It can't be that such a simple Xian formation could trap you, right? Gu Mingzhu's eyes were filled with mockery. Actually, as long as you have experienced systematic learning and guidance from a famous teacher, you will know the characteristics of Xian formations. Naturally, you will be able to solve them quickly. However, I don't think you have seen any decent Xian formations. It's normal that you don't know where to start. Chu Luyue nodded seriously. I have not seen many Xian formations like this. She had stopped playing after she was 6 years old. Of course, she had not seen many of them. Gu Mingzhu rolled her eyes. Why don't I wait for you to solve the first Xian formation before we proceed to the second Xian formation? I don't want someone to say that I won disgracefully when they lose. Chu Luyue rejected her suggestion, and her lips curved up. That's not necessary. With that, she turned around and placed a chess piece on the chessboard. Caw! The sound of the Xian formation being solved could be heard. I've been waiting for you for a long time, so I don't want to trouble you to wait for me. Love Network has a better reading experience. Chapter 106. Everyone's jaws dropped. Chu Luyue solved the first Xian formation. Wasn't this too easy? If she remembered correctly, it had only been an hour since she came in. She actually followed Gu Mingzhu and passed the first round. No, she had already solved it long ago. She was just waiting for Gu Mingzhu. Gu Mingzhu's smug smile froze on her face. Her eyes slowly widened as she stared at the chessboard in front of Chu Luiyue. You also solved the first round. Chu Luiyue smiled faintly. Isn't it obvious? Gu Mingzhu felt her mind go blank. She was completely stunned when she saw Chu Luiyue's nonchalant expression. How was this possible? This Xian formation was very complicated. Without some skills, it was impossible to solve it so easily. She had said it was simple just now. In fact, she had exaggerated it to mock Chu Luiyue. If it was really so easy, the dozens of people in the room would not have racked their brains for so long. However, this did not seem to be a problem for Chu Luiyue at all. Chu Luiyue is too amazing. Didn't she just come in not long ago? She solved it so quickly. Although Gu Mingzhu was one step ahead of her, if we calculate carefully, Chu Luiyue used less time. Hey, can't you guys tell that Chu Luiyue already thought of the answer long ago? She was waiting for Gu Mingzhu on purpose. I think Gu Mingzhu will definitely lose this round. Tisk tsk, rumor has it that she used to be a good-for-nothing. How did she become so powerful in the blink of an eye? Her talent is probably comparable to Si Ting's. Gu Mingzhu's expression turned even uglier when she heard the whispers around her. Continue. As the second young mistress of the Gu family, she was used to being arrogant. How could she admit defeat at this time? Chu Luiyue did not care. She turned back to look at the chessboard. After the first Xian formation was solved, the chess pieces on it changed automatically and formed the second Xian formation. Gu Mingzhu retracted her gaze in annoyance, but a trace of uneasiness surfaced in her heart. Chu Luiyue, how could he be so strong? She had just stepped onto the path of a mystic cultivator and clearly didn't have the qualifications to hire a teacher to teach her, so how could she be more outstanding than her? At first, he thought that the midterm examination was a coincidence. But now, he really couldn't afford to be careless. Gu Mingzhu took a deep breath and tried her best to focus all of her attention on the second profound formation. She wanted to break it as soon as possible and defeat Chu Luiyue. However, her mind was in a mess, and her mind was in a mess. She couldn't calm down at all. The more it was like this, the more anxious she became. Looking at the profound formation on the chessboard, the more complicated and difficult it was to decipher. Unknowingly, beads of sweat appeared on her forehead, and her eyes were slightly red. Dong Fangqing, who was standing in front of her, saw her expression the clearest. He couldn't help but shake his head. Gu Mingzhu's talent was indeed not bad, and she had the right to be arrogant. However, if she was too arrogant, she would become arrogant. She didn't think about how the Xian formation in the forest during the midterm examination was personally set up by Elder Sun and the rest. How could she have passed it by luck? It would be difficult for Gu Mingzhu to defeat Chu Luiyue. Time always passed very quickly when she was deep in thought. Gradually, the sunlight outside the window turned from warm to gentle and then to dim. Chu Luiyue looked up and realized that it was already evening. She had already spent close to 3 hours here. Thinking of this, her gaze turned and landed on Si Ting, who was beside her. His back was straight, and his expression was cold. He was focused on the profound formation in front of him. The light shone on his face, outlining a sharp and clear outline. This youth was like a sharp blade that was ready to be unsheathed at any time. He always had a cold aura around him. Although he looked noble, restrained, and polite, Chu Luiyue secretly felt that this person was not as simple as he looked on the surface. Si Ting felt Chu Luiyue's gaze on him. His entire body tensed up, and the hand that was holding the chess piece froze for a moment. Was she getting impatient from waiting? Si Ting couldn't help but think in his heart. Then, he felt a strange emotion. Her talent was indeed stronger than he had imagined. If he had guessed correctly, she had already solved the second Xian formation. However, for some reason, she hadn't taken the final step. It was as if she was waiting for him. Si Ting pursed his lips and looked at the profound formation. Then, he turned his wrist slightly, and the chess piece changed its direction. It landed in a position that he hadn't planned to move to just now. Crack! The second Xian formation was solved. The chess pieces on the chessboard in front of him suddenly flew up. They were black and white and automatically fell into the chess box beside him. Dongfang Qing looked at Si Ting in surprise. I thought that you would have to spend 4 hours on this. I didn't expect. Si Ting, you seem to have improved very quickly recently. Si Ting nodded slightly. I happened to see a similar Xian formation a few days before I started. That's why I solved it faster. Dongfang Qing stroked his beard in understanding. I heard that you've been borrowing Xian formation diagrams from the library recently. Now, it seems like it's quite useful. All right. Since you've already passed these 2 stages, you can end class early today. Many students looked at Si Ting enviously after he said that. The first place was indeed different. Not only could they leave in the middle, but they could also end class early. They didn't know how long they would have to solve it here. Si Yang couldn't help but hold his head and complain. Big brother, why do I feel like you're even more powerful than before? Do you still want others to live? Si Ting stood up and looked at him nonchalantly. You can be like this if you work harder. Si Yang couldn't help but mutter softly, do you think everyone is like you? You can solve it just because you've seen something similar. If that's the case, wouldn't everyone be a genius? Those who could enter Tianlu Academy were all rather talented. However, there would always be someone better than them. When everyone gathered together, there would still be a distinction between the strong and the weak. Without a doubt, Si Ting was one of the outstanding ones. How can there be so many perverts in this world? Crack. Before Si Yang could finish speaking, another sound rang out in the room. Everyone perked up. Another person solved the second stage. When they looked in the direction of the voice at the same time, they were shocked on the spot again. That was because the sound came from the chessboard in front of Chu Luyue. This. The person who solved the second Xian formation right after Si Ting was actually Chu Luyue. Dongfang Qing was also taken aback. He unknowingly put down his crossed arms and quickly walked to Chu Luyue's side. Almost at the same time, the chess pieces on Chu Luyue's chessboard flew up and fell down on their own. Everyone no longer had any doubts when they saw this scene. Chu Luyue had indeed solved 2 Xian formations consecutively. Chu Luyue clapped his hands and stood up. He stretched his sore shoulders. It's finally over. Si Ting saw the relief on her face from the corner of his eye. The expression in his eyes softened, but it was fleeting as if it had never appeared. No one noticed. Si Yang looked at her in a daze. He finally could not help but curse softly. Damn pervert. Chu Luyue glanced at him. Si Yang trembled and retracted his neck. For some reason, he felt that Chu Luyue had an indescribable aura that made people not dare to provoke him. Chu Luyue did not mind. He turned to look at Gu Mingzhu and smiled. Second young Mistress Gu, the 2 Xian formation diagrams that you promised earlier are mine now, right? Gu Mingzhu's face turned pale. To the Gu family, those diagrams were rare treasures. She dared to use them as a wager because she was impulsive and confident that she could beat Chu Luyue. But now, she had lost. What should she do? Did Chu Luyue really take advantage of her? Gu Mingzhu's expression changed. She suddenly thought of something and glared at Chu Luyue. Si Ting just solved it and you also solved it. How can there be such a coincidence in this world? Chu Luyue, you must have cheated. Digression, it should be up soon. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 107. Chu Luiyue raised his eyebrows. Cheating. Are you saying that I was able to solve the Xian formation because I saw how Si Ting moved? Gu Mingzhu, Si Ting, and I are right in front of Mr. Dongfang. If we were to play any tricks, he would have seen it clearly. Are you suspecting that Mr. Dongfang is covering for me? Dongfang Qing frowned and looked at Gu Mingzhu. Gu Mingzhu, this is not a place for you to fool around. I am not fooling around. After saying that, Gu Mingzhu felt a little regretful. Saying that in front of teacher Dongfang, wasn't she just making things difficult for herself? But what could she do now that she had said it? She gritted her teeth and made up her mind. Mr. Dongfang, don't you find it strange? Why did Chu Luiyue succeed right after Si Ting? Isn't this too strange? Everyone looked at each other and were somewhat suspicious. Dongfang Qing was so angry that he laughed. Gu Mingzhu, this is not the first time you have attended classes here. Don't you know whether you can cheat or not by seeing how the people around you solve the Xian formation? The room was silent for a moment. Although everyone was sitting next to each other, they were all quite a distance away from each other. It was not that easy to see what was going on around them. More importantly, this chessboard was used to train their ability to solve Xian formations. Usually, only the people in front of them could see clearly. From other positions, they could only see blurry shadows. Chu Luiyue and Si Ting were sitting next to each other, but from Chu Luiyue's position, they should not be able to see anything. Si Yang laughed out loud and mocked, "You're right. Gu Mingzhu, you are not far from my brother. You can see how he moved just by looking up. Why didn't you solve the second Xian formation?" Gu Mingzhu's face was red and she could not speak. Although I don't want to admit it, this pervert is quite talented. Do you think that elder son and the rest are so easily fooled? Pfft. Si Yang remembered clearly that elder son was full of praise for Chu Luiyue that day. At first, he didn't want to believe it, but later, he realized that Chu Luiyue was indeed not an ordinary person. Although he couldn't compare to him, he was willing to admit that he was powerful. How could he be like Gu Mingzhu? Gu Mingzhu, are you a sore loser? Gu Mingzhu glared at Si Yang. Shut up. Chu Luiyue smiled amiably. Second Miss Gu has a noble status, so she's definitely not someone who doesn't know what to say. Everyone present clearly heard the two scrolls of Xian formation diagrams mentioned earlier. If second Miss Gu were to renege on her debt, wouldn't that be too shameless? Who are you calling shameless? How could Gu Mingzhu not tell that Chu Luiyue was scolding her? She immediately became anxious. Chu Luiyue blinked in surprise. Second Miss Gu, what do you mean? Are you really not going to fulfill your end of the bet? Gu Mingzhu felt extremely aggrieved. Since Chu Luiyue had already spoken, what else could she say? She couldn't help but glance at Dongfang Qing. As expected, she saw that he was also a little impatient. She knew that it wouldn't do her any good if she continued to make a fuss. Isn't it just two scrolls of Xian formation diagrams? I'll give them to you. She pressed her hand firmly on the chessboard, barely restraining the anger in her heart. At the same time, she was thinking about how to explain it to her family. Everything else was fine, but if the family head knew that she lost these things in a bet, second Miss Gu is really generous. Then, Luiyue will thank you here. Although Chu Luiyue didn't care about the two Xian formation diagrams, since the other party had delivered it to her door, how could she not accept it? After speaking, Chu Luiyue looked at Dongfang Qing. Teacher Dongfang, can I also leave class now? Dongfang Qing originally wanted to chat with her, but seeing that she seemed to want to leave, he didn't force her to stay. Of course. Thank you, Teacher Dongfang. After speaking, Chu Luiyue simply packed her things and walked out. Almost at the same time, Si Ting also said goodbye to Dong Fangqing and walked out with Chu Luiyue. Gu Mingzhu watched the two of them disappear together. She bit her lower lip and punched the chessboard angrily. B*TCH. You're going to cause trouble for me again if you come out with me. After walking out of the door, Chu Luiyue looked at Si Ting, who was following behind her. Si Ting frowned slightly. I'm sorry to cause you trouble. But there's really nothing between me and Gu Mingzhu. He knew that Gu Mingzhu was interested in him, but the two of them didn't usually talk in private. He also didn't know that Gu Mingzhu would deliberately cause trouble for Chu Luiyue today. It was obvious that Chu Luiyue was very smart and had already figured out the reason. For some reason, he was a little nervous. He was afraid that Chu Luiyue would misunderstand, but he also had an inexplicable sense of anticipation. This has nothing to do with me. Chu Luiyue shook her head. Looking at the handsome young man in front of her, she thought that it was really easy to attract girls with his looks. She didn't care at first, but it wouldn't be good if it affected her. But I don't want something like this to happen again in the future. So, if there's nothing important, it's better that we don't interact too much. Hearing the distant politeness in the young girl's tone, Si Ting felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on his heart. His lips moved as if he wanted to explain, but on second thought, what right did he have to explain? After Chu Luiyue finished speaking, she walked forward and lightly said, I'm sorry. But I still have to thank you for today. Si Ting hesitated for a moment, then quickly walked forward and blocked her way. I promise that something like this won't happen again. But I also have a question that I hope you can answer. Chu Luiyue nodded and gestured for him to ask. Si Ting paused and stared at Chu Luiyue's clear, black, and bright eyes as he enunciated every word. He said slowly, You already solved the second Xian formation, didn't you? Chu Luiyue looked at him with interest and asked him a question in return. Aren't you the same? Si Ting was suddenly at a loss for words. He had always concealed it so well that even Dong Fangqing didn't notice it. But Chu Luiyue saw right through him. Chu Luiyue had long felt that something was wrong with Si Ting. Today, when they were in class together, she finally realized it. He was also hiding his talents and abilities. Although she didn't know the reason, Chu Luiyue wasn't interested in asking further. Then, how long did you take? Si Ting didn't deny it. Instead, he looked at Chu Luiyue with an inquisitive gaze. Chu Luiyue's lips curved up as she walked past him. I've already answered one of your questions. As for the rest, I have no comment. Si Ting turned around and saw that the slender young girl had already left. By the time she returned to her room, the sky was already dark. The moment she entered the room, she immediately stopped in her tracks. Then, she quickly chopped behind her. Who is it? Her wrist was grabbed by a warm and strong hand. Then, with a strong pull, she was easily pulled into an embrace. Chu Luiyue was shocked. She flipped her wrist and a silver light flashed across her eyes. At this moment, a familiar cold fragrance wafted over and made her stop in her tracks. Are you trying to kill your husband? A lazy voice sounded beside her ear. Chu Luiyue looked up and saw a beautiful face that could infuriate anyone. Rongxiu. Digression, Happy Queen's Day la 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 la. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 108. Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly, took a step forward, and said with a smile that was not a smile, What is your highness trying to do? Rongxiu looked at her crafty black eyes that were like a fox's, sighed softly, and laughed softly. I really don't know what to do with you. Before he finished speaking, his body moved, and he quickly grabbed both of her wrists, and then used one hand. Chapter 108, Waiting for You Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 109. Although the residence that the academy had arranged for Chu Luiyue was not big, there were still spare rooms. Seeing that Rong Xiao had once again snatched her bed, Chu Luiyue was no longer angry. She had even gotten used to it. She went to the room next door, closed the door, and listened carefully for a while. She did not detect any movement in the room next door, so she calmed down. Since Rong Xiao could sneak into Tianlu Academy without anyone noticing, he would not be discovered so easily. She was not worried about this. It was already late, but Chu Luiyue did not go to bed immediately. Instead, she sat cross-legged, held her breath, and focused on absorbing the heaven and earth force. Waves of invisible energy gradually merged into her body, passing through her limbs and bones before silently flowing into the water droplet in her dantian. Ever since she had forged this special pill of origin and officially embarked on the path of cultivation again, Chu Luiyue had not relaxed for even a day. No matter how busy or tired she was, she would persevere in her cultivation and not waste a single drop of time. Although no one forced her, there was always a voice in her heart that kept reminding her that she still had many things to do. Being reborn was a great opportunity. She had to make herself stronger as soon as possible. After an unknown period of time, Chu Luiyue finally opened her eyes slowly and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. She could feel the aura in her body growing stronger day by day. This body had the Daijing Yuan meridian after all, so it was much faster than ordinary people when cultivating. However, it was still not enough. She had been born with the Tianjing Yuan meridian in her previous life. Her talent was extraordinary, and the Daijing Yuan meridian she had now could not compare to it. However, she also knew that this matter could not be rushed. Her former enemy's status was much higher than hers, so she could only plan slowly. Previously, Si Yang had said that the first place of the midterm assessment would have the chance to meet the envoy from the Tianling dynasty. Calculating the time, it should be soon. Chu Luiyue finally wrote down a Xian formation diagram in her mind before finally resting. The next day, Chu Luiyue woke up early in the morning. After tidying up, she remembered that Rong Xiao was still sleeping in the room next door. She walked over and knocked on the door. No one agreed. He pushed the door open and saw that she had already left. Chu Luiyue face-bombed, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. The dignified Prince Li seemed to really treat her place as an inn. However, it would be troublesome if he stayed here at this time. Chu Luiyue no longer paid attention to these, turned around and went out. Hey, have you heard? Yesterday, during the Xian Master's meditation class, Gu Mingzhu challenged Chu Luiyue and lost 2 level 5 Xian formation diagrams. Are you serious? Wasn't Gu Mingzhu's talent also very strong? How could he lose to Chu Luiyue? Of course it's real. This matter had already spread throughout the entire academy. Gu Mingzhu is talented, but have you forgotten that Chu Luiyue got second place in the midterm assessment on his first day here? However, she really has guts. With Gu Mingzhu's status, she actually didn't give her any face. She didn't even give face to the crown prince, let alone others. I think this Chu Luiyue is really not someone to be trifled with. Chu Luiyue arrived at Joyo Tower and heard the discussions from afar. After seeing her figure, these voices quickly disappeared. Everyone looked at her with an uneasy expression. Perhaps many people from the Xian Master's side had not seen Chu Luiyue before, but Chu Luiyue was very famous among the warriors. When she was competing with Chu Xianmin that day, the warriors were all present. However, Chu Luiyue turned a deaf ear to all these and walked straight to Joyo Tower. Wait! A provocative voice sounded, and Chu Luiyue looked up. The person blocking her path was none other than Lu Fian. "What's the matter?" Chu Luyue asked lightly. Lu Fian's thin brows knitted together. Her already sharp voice became even more ear-piercing when she raised it. "Of course, there's something." "Chu Luyue, what are you doing here?" Chu Luyue said matter-of-factly, "To cultivate, of course. This is the territory of martial artists. Who knows what intentions a Xian cultivator like you has by coming here?" Lu Fian had been bullied by Chu Luyue the day before and did not sleep well the entire night. No matter how she thought about it, she felt aggrieved. Just as she was thinking about how to deal with her, Chu Luyue came knocking on her door. There were many warriors here, so she was not afraid of Chu Luyue. Upon hearing this, Chu Luyue's calm expression finally changed. She raised her brows slightly and asked, "The warrior's territory is the warrior's territory. This is a warrior's territory. Am I, the person who won first place in the warrior competition, not qualified to come here?" Lu Fian was stunned. She then remembered that although Chu Luyue had gone to the Xian master's side to cultivate, she had indeed won the warrior's first place during the midterm assessment. She was actually more qualified than anyone else to come here. Lu Fian's expression froze. "My time is very precious. If you continue to obstruct me, I can't guarantee what I will do." Chu Luyue's expression was calm, and her tone was indifferent, as though she was talking about something unimportant. But it was precisely this attitude that made Lu Fian feel an inexplicable fear. She almost subconsciously took a step back, but with so many people watching, she felt even more indignant. When Chu Luyue walked past, she could not help but curse in a low voice. "What's there to be proud of? You're just a stray dog." Without the support of an aristocratic family, what capabilities could Chu Luyue have? Upon hearing this, Chu Luyue did not stop and only laughed faintly. This was not the first time she had heard such words, but she did not care at all. In everyone's eyes, the Chu family was large and had a stable foundation. But to her and Chu Ning, it was nothing more than a dirty and smelly cage. The sooner she could leave, the sooner she would be happy. As for Lu Fian, who did not know how to speak, she could deal with her another day. Seeing that Chu Luyue ignored her, Lu Fian thought that she was afraid. She could not help but feel more confident and said to the people behind her, "Did you see that? Chu Luyue is just doing well on the surface. She has offended the Chu family and the crown prince. She will suffer in the future." When she said this, she did not get the agreement she expected. The few women looked at each other and hesitated for a long time before saying hesitantly, I heard that the Chu family situation is not very good now. They said that the crown prince is going to marry into the Chu family in 2 days, but Minmin seems to be just a concubine. In the past, everyone thought that Chu Xianmin's position as the crown princess was secure, and they thought highly of the Chu family. But it was different now. Chu Xianmin married into the crown prince's family with such a status. It was equivalent to giving the Chu family a slap. The Chu family was in a worse situation. On the other hand, Chu Liyue's life after leaving the Chu family was smooth sailing. The expression in Lu Fian's eyes changed. She deliberately sighed and put on a sorrowful expression. Minmin has already been disfigured. The position of the crown princess naturally has to be given to someone else. When is the date? We have to go together and support her. There were not many opportunities to see the crown prince. She would not miss it. At this moment, Chu Luyue had already reached Joyo Tower. An elder in a white robe was sitting in front of the door, pretending to be asleep. Before every student entered, they had to stop in front of the elder for a moment. Chu Luyue saw that they all took off the nameplate on their left chest and placed it on a square black jade in front of the elder before picking it up. She walked closer and saw that a few lines of words would appear on the jade whenever the nameplate was placed on the jade. Soon, it was her turn. She had just placed her nameplate on the jade when the elder suddenly opened his eyes. "Are you the girl who got first place in the midterm assessment, Chu Luyue?" He pursed his lips. "Why didn't you register your Yuan Meridian level?" Digression: mobile users who are working hard to save their manuscripts, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.